Hello again, lovely listeners, and welcome back to part 2 of the OH-THE-HUMANITIES E3 2015 Super Special Edition. This, again, podcast, we are once again joined by the wonderful James Carter from Cane and Rinse. Say hello.
Hi.
Good. That wasn't hello, you said hi, but good try. And we're also joined, instead of Darren Gargett, who has had to jump out, he has been subbed out of this football team. And instead we are subbing in returning guest Joshua Garrity. Welcome back.
Hello there.
Hello. Yeah, Josh, you joined us for our last set of E3 shows, which went on far too long, and this one appears to be following that trend. So this should be fun.
These 2 episodes proving to be a bit of a Cane and Rinse the Humanities, perhaps.
Damn right. Cane and Rinse, they only do an hour and a half. That's nothing. Fair weather friends. So this show we're covering basically the rest of E3. Last episode
just to cut in a minute, I'm still part of this podcast. Hi, I'm CJ.
I know you're here.
No, you didn't know I was here. How dare you, sir? Although I was thinking, with that second E3 show we had last year, where it broke, and we had the sort of skit whereby we tried to sellotape the bits together by pretending that Josh had been killed, and then we resurrected him in a Dark Souls kind of style. It would have been ace if we'd have thought about this beforehand, to maybe have like a Doctor Who thing with Darren Gargett sort of dying, and then like there being this big transformation noise, and then Josh emerges as the new Doctor.
Yeah, listeners, pretend that happened, and pretend that we're clever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent.
Right, this is your baby this time, Pat.
Yeah, I'm in the driving seat this time, so get prepared for a ride. Okay, so we're covering basically everything that we didn't do last time. So last time we talked about Bethesda, we talked about Microsoft, and we talked about EA Sports. So kicking off where we left off with Ubisoft this year. Ubisoft had again Aisha Tyler returning to host. As always, little Yves Guillemot on the stage as well. Always good to see Yves. And we kicked off with I wasn't expecting this with a sequel to the South Park game. What did we think about this?
Great news.
Good.
Yeah, I haven't played the recent South Park game, so I didn't really have much of an opinion. I mean, the reveal was good, and you can tell it's written by the people who write the TV show, because it's actually funny, unlike so many other South Park games that have come out in the past. But I mean, I'm glad for people who really liked the Stick of Truth, but I unfortunately haven't played it, so my reaction was just, oh, that's good.
Well,
I think it was interesting that I think it was interesting that they said that they kind of resented the first game and really hated making it right up until the point where it was almost done, and then we're like, oh, we know how to make video games now, we'll do another one. So it'll be interesting to see sort of how the original compares to the new one. Also that this one's not being made by Obsidian, it's being done by, is it Ubisoft San Francisco or something like that?
I think so, something like that, yeah.
I
played a lot of, I played some of the first South Park game. I was borrowing the 360 to play Dark Souls 2 at the time, and they'd lent me a copy of that. And I got a couple of hours in, really enjoyed it, but then had to give the 360 back, so I never kind of dove back in. But like, it was one of the funniest things I think I've ever played. Like, I was crying with laughter for most of it. Like, I as a big South Park person, like, it was exactly the kind of game that I needed South Park to be. None of that first-person shooter guff that came out in the PS1 days. Oh no! Like, it was great, and it's also probably winning the award for absolute best game title I've ever heard.
It's so awful. I mean, it's awful in a good way, but
it's awful because it sounds like a Dark Souls 2 message.
It's kind of in the Avengers font as well, which I quite liked.
Yes. There's very much a superhero or supervillain, I guess, kind of theme to this one. So
was there a shoot 'em up on the PS1? I remember a kart game.
Yeah, there was a shoot 'em up. There was that. There was a quiz game as well. There were a few.
Tower defense game on Xbox Live. Yeah, there was some
all bad. Every single one of them was terrible. But yeah, I'm actually quite excited for this one. I really like the the superheroes bits they do every now and again, I always find it quite funny. So yeah, I'm sold, and hopefully Cthulhu's going to show up as well, like in the show. So I'm in for that.
Well, I'm hoping that maybe the original is probably down to about 10-15 quid now, because it's been one of those that I fancied playing for a while but never quite got around to. You know, sometimes you're waiting for a certain price point, or you're thinking I could pick that up and I know I'd enjoy it, but I'm playing this and this and this at the minute.
Well,
So
I can heartily recommend it to the tune of sort of 10-15 quid, even for someone who's not necessarily a South Park fan. Obviously, anyone who hates South Park, just don't even look this way. But I think it seems the sort of thing that's kind of a candidate maybe for PlayStation Plus in the run up to the next one coming out. That would make sense to me. Just get it into the hands of loads of people who maybe like you guys just didn't get around to it or whatever. That would seem sensible, but it's one of those things you don't know until obviously it happens. So yeah, but I would recommend it even if you have to pick up a cheaper or second-hand copy or anything.
Yeah, I think most of the sales for that are now done, aren't they? And I think if maybe early next year, you know, you'll obviously get people that are picking it up pre-Christmas, but early next year I'd say PlayStation Plus is the only place really for that to go. And also Ubi are quite good at kicking these sort of games onto Xbox Live Gold and PS Plus. So.
It's also for anyone listening who's PC based, something that's liable to pop up in a Steam sale either now or at Christmas. So perfect chance there to pick it up.
Of course, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So South Park. Right, moving on. A new genre for Ubi. Sword combat with I think my favourite presenter of the whole show, like the wonderfully effusive bearded
Alan
man
Moore.
with the cane. Yeah, Alan Moore. Yes. Came on to announce For Honor, a sort of teamy 4-on-4 sword combat game, but with like sort of quite weighty, interesting sort of sword dynamics that look a bit different. It kind of looked a bit like a Western Dynasty Warriors to me.
Yeah, it did. I was watching all of these press conferences, bar Nintendo and the PC one, with a bunch of my old uni mates, because we decided to have like a E3 evening where we'd all just shout cynical stuff at all the press conferences and stuff like this. And we were expecting Ubisoft to be a bit of a snore fest, but then we saw this and it was like, oh, actually, and because we play a lot of multiplayer games together, like Civ 5 and Counter-Strike and stuff like that, we were looking at For Honor going, that's our next multiplayer game. It had a lot of stuff that like I've always liked the idea of the Dynasty Warrior games, but for whatever reason they never click with me. I just don't think there's enough depth there for me as a single player experience, but as a multiplayer experience I could actually see myself getting really into it. And I love the fact that the battles between players are more complex than the battles between the infantry. So you actually have to really think about the positioning of your sword and all of that stuff. It kind of felt like a melee Titanfall in that regard, just having like lots of AI opponents for somebody who's less skilled to take out and still contribute to the game. But if you're really good, you can take out the other players and benefit the game in that way. I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I hope the end product is what we saw here, but like if it manages to deliver on the promise, this could be one to watch.
I think the thing that interested me was people often talk about, you know, why there aren't any or many World War I shooters, because gunfire in those games is broken up by rather long reloading mechanics. One would imagine in a game that tried to do that, and something similar could be said for intricate sword work. It's often easier just to have a sort of slash and hack type take on it, but I think games that do something similar that I can think of, Condemned had an intricate sort of first person melee system, and Dead Island had obviously if you chose to use the analog sticks control method, you could have quite an intricate melee system in that as well. And so if they can do something like that, especially if it's kind of hinted and we're not really sure, but maybe there's going to be different sort of time periods or locations and eras, and therefore potentially different sword fighting styles that go with each of those, which could be really interesting.
Yeah, they said that the different clans will have different, I think the samurai are more sort of technical and more sort of bouncy, jumpy, and they'll play differently. You would swing
a Viking's axe or a longsword or something. Yeah,
or the knight who grabs the sharp end of the sword and hits them with the fat end.
Yeah,
that
was swung around like a hammer. That was really interesting. Yeah,
God, clapped.
I saw an interview with the Jason, whatever his name was, when he was on GameSpot, and he was talking about more of a that there will be a single player story. But I wasn't that fussed when I first saw it in the conference. My first thought was, it's Crepe Souls, me mixing France and the sort of medieval look. But he was saying in this chat on GameSpot that, and I may well bastardise this a little bit, but this is what raised my eyebrows, was that when you meet somebody in combat, that you kind of almost like that combat's locked in, and the second analog stick controls the way that you the way that you position your sword. So as you rotate the analog stick, you might move the sword above your head or move it down low, and you're trying to anticipate a block, but also where you might strike. So that kind of technical aspect is to almost psyching people out like two samurai, even if you were if you're playing like a regular soldier or whatever it is. That's really cool. I'm all over that. That's fantastic.
I mean, the combat seemed to be quite it wasn't kind of just flailing on the analog stick. They were kind of taking their time and getting a couple of hits and backing away and weighing up the opponent again. It does seem to be very mind game.
Yeah, and I'm curious about that. But I remember just afterwards on Twitter, there was an outcry from a lot of folks that said that it was very like a game that's already on the PC.
Oh, like Chivalry, yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I see the comparisons. It's certainly like, just if you were to write down the premise on a piece of paper, yeah, those games sound very similar. But the combat in Chivalry is much more like Skyrim, where it's like first person, and you kind of just hammer the attack button until somebody dies. Whereas this seemed a bit more intricate, and honestly it just looked a bit more fun. Chivalry's, I think there is a community around Chivalry that really like it, but I found it a bit limited. But I see the comparison, but I think
the other comparison I saw was I think more just from setting rather than anything else, was to Mount and Blade. Another PC.
That's probably more accurate, actually. Yeah.
No, well, there you go. There you go. I'd just like to set out my stall now. Much like Dishonored Sick, this is now going to be known as For Honor Sick, because there's a U missing from that word that I really don't like. Apologies to those listening who are used to US spellings, but I can't get on with it, I'm afraid.
We'll call it For Honor.
For Honor, yeah.
For Honor.
Whoever Honor may be.
I think at this point it's worth applauding Ubi for doing something a little bit different, because it's been said of late that the Assassin's Creed, the Crew, Watch Dogs, they all sort of fall into sort of a template, and they're all going for maybe a similar audience. And whilst obviously we don't know quite how the different bits are gonna come together in the solo game, it doesn't seem particularly obvious, and yet the reaction was quite rapturous. So my hat's off to them for this.
Yeah, this time last year, people were saying the same about the Assassin's Creeds and Watch Dogs, etc. that Ubisoft were making, and of course we had Valiant Hearts and Child of Light last year to kind of break that sort of string of those types of games that some people, not all, but some people are maybe a little bit fatigued with. But I'm going to quite notable by its absence in this presentation, I thought.
Well, I'm going to tickle in here because I didn't put Assassin's Creed in the notes, but
I've just noticed that.
I think the new one looks absolutely fantastic. It's a day one for me. I'm really into it. It's kind of like Bionic Commando and a bright, vivid Victorian London, rather than because I was wondering how they get on with the likes of a Bloodborne and the Order 1886 doing sort of a dark, mysterious kind of Victorian-esque setting. But I love how bright it looks. I like the gang wars that I've seen on some of the bits on GameSpot earlier today. I like the Bionic Commando type stuff. My issue from the things I've seen with the combat is it looks maybe a bit too fast for me. Unity was my favourite combat since Demon's Souls. It was heavy, it was clunky, it was meaty, and rather than having to do like a ballerina skip across an entire courtyard just because you want to go for the other person, you had to think technically of like, how am I going to get to them? I'm going to have to roll. I'm going to have to run. Am I better off taking that person out first? There was a bit more to it, and this looks really fast and really bouncy. But I'm up for this, I must admit.
I mean, I'll hold up my hand and say, like, I haven't played Unity, and from what I understand, despite all the technical issues, Unity actually went some ways to address some of my problems of the Assassin's Creed formula, in that I really dislike the follow this person until they reach a certain point missions and like surveillance and stuff like that, and just the constant repeating of similar quests and stuff like that. And that I'm sorry to say, but like the memory of all of that stuff is really not helping Syndicate in regards to my excitement. But we'll see. I don't know. I haven't really liked an Assassin's Creed game since Brotherhood. Black Flag was kind of the closest I've come to really liking an Assassin's Creed game again, but even that kind of fell flat for me in the end.
Really?
Yeah, no, I loved all the pirate stuff in that game, but the moment it became an Assassin's Creed game again, I was like,
it definitely does lose something towards the end, doesn't it?
Yeah, it just, and I hate the storyline to that. Like, if I'm one of those people who think that it should just be in the historical setting and should get rid of the sci-fi stuff.
No.
Oh, sorry, Pat.
No, I need my future Desmond.
I mean,
all of his lovely friends.
I had a different route with Assassin's Creed that when I was coming into it, people were going, "Oh, start with 2. You know, 2's the best play to start. The first one's rubbish." And I do like a legacy, so I was like, I saw the first one for about $3.99, and I thought, yeah, I'll canon into this. And whilst there was the repetition in the gameplay and stuff, there was something about, I mean, I'm not a religious person, but there was something about going up sort of a sort of steep sort of mountainside on a horse, and then all of a sudden this widescreen like Jerusalem, and the place was somewhere that I'd not been to in games, and it took my breath away. I was invested. The biggest character in Assassin's Creed, the first one, the story was balls, absolute balls. But the biggest character in it was the city, and I loved exploring that. I was really taken with it. And in the same regard, when I did get to 2, I didn't find the city as interesting in the bits that I played, and I've bounced off them since. And it was when it was Jim Trinker's video for Video Gaming where he was showing off the city, and I was like, again, I've not been to Revolution era Paris, and when I was playing the game, going on the rooftop, I saw bodies laying in the corner. I saw people celebrating and playing music in other places. I wanted to explore, and I fell in love with Unity. I mean,
CJ,
I know...
you really need to play The Witcher 3. Just to put that in there while what you're describing, it's like, okay, you really need to play The Witcher 3 at some point.
I'm kind of the bits I've seen of the little stories of that, I have really enjoyed. But I mean, I found Arno to be a really good character. I like the Romeo and Juliet sort of aspect of. In Unity, and also some of the side stories as well, and the way that they tied into history. But one of them was there was somebody that neither side kind of trusted or didn't know if they were fake or they were real, but they were all trying to get the pages to this document and stuff, which is sort of classic AC fare, I guess. But when you start finding these pages, the author is Nicholas Flamel, and I was like, oh my god, like the guy from Harry Potter, he was real. And so that was another one of those kind of little like tickles. And there was one with this woman, and she would dream about people that were committing crimes and would sort of dob them in, and you follow her as she picks off these people, and she was like, this man has been doing this, that and the other, and you kind of go and assassinate him and stuff. But when you looked up the historical side of it, when certain people came into power, again, they were paranoid as to whether she was fake or whether she was real, and they put her into this wonderful house. They gave her every luxury, and the person that terminated that was Napoleon, and she said to him, within a fortnight you will die, and he did. And again, we've been to space stations, we've been to Victorian eras, we've been all over the place. I've never been to Paris like that. I've never sat there with the Marquis de Sade, and he's sitting next to a young girl, and at the end of this cutscene, he kind of puts his hand on her thigh and wanted to vomit. I've never seen a group of beggars and this king of beggars basically saying that one person hasn't brought enough money in, and we all know that cripples do better, and starts sawing his leg off. It was a great game for me, and I didn't see the aspect that other people saw. I was genuinely invested in it. Plus, I think a lot of the haranguing that the game got was based on people that didn't have an informed opinion and were just jumping on those that sought to stick the knife in, which I suppose is an Assassin's Creed pun in itself. But
then again, I think Twitter
that.
Particularly is a big echo chamber of this game's bad, and everyone goes, oh, it must be bad then, and it's a bad place to be. Generally, I mean, like we talked about this a little bit last time, but Twitter was not too bad this year. Like,
no, Twitter was great, I thought.
Yeah, like, well, my Twitter wasn't too bad. I don't know what yours were like. Mine wasn't too bad. And like some years you read Twitter and it makes you sad as they're announcing things. But no, in general, I was expecting a lot of boo when Assassin's Creed came on, and generally a lot of positivity. But it's interesting you talk about sawing off your leg, because that leads us quite nicely on to Aisha Tyler and the cosplayer who didn't know he was supposed to be doing a bit. Dear God, I felt for that poor man. He just wanted to dress up in his clothes and stand there. He didn't.
Did you see the picture on Twitter where the picture on Twitter which said you've been invaded by Marvellous Chester?
Yeah, that was beautiful.
That was outstanding.
So we pour one out for you, poor cosplayer. You didn't know. And Aisha Tyler tried her best, but no, for such a slick planned idea. Let's talk to a random cosplayer. It's not a good bit.
I do like Aisha Tyler, though. I think she brings a passion and an energy to this thing that I can't imagine anybody else doing.
Yeah, I mean, say what you... I find the Ubisoft presentations to be awkward at the best of times, but like her passion is genuine, and I think that's refreshing when you have a bunch of CEOs who are talking like, politicians to the audience. So it is nice to have somebody who is, like maybe it's a bit awkward at times, but like there's genuine love for the games industry there.
And there's enough sort of self-awareness and willingness to poke fun, but not in a malicious way at the hobby, because as you say, she's got that passion for it, and that was always the problem, getting people in to host particular award ceremonies perhaps that used to happen towards the end of the year, who seemed to find it much more funny to poke fun at video games and people who like video games, rather than to find a way to be self-deprecating but also very self-aware of what the joke means and how it's to be taken, etc.
That was Joel McHale, wasn't it?
Oh, it was several people. That was several people, unfortunately.
The Jamie Kennedy thing as well. Let us never speak of that again. Assassin's Creed, right. Moving on, probably in order now, I don't know. We had a new look at a complete graphical overhaul and a new add-on pack for Crew called
The
Wild
Crew
Run,
Wild Run, yeah.
which basically looks like the Motorstorm, from what I could tell.
Yeah. Off-road and kind of extreme vehicles in terms of drag racing and monster trucks and
Here's a bunch of cars, race them all. Like, yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think in general, racing games like this don't really fare that well at E3, just because more than many genres, like you just need to get your hands on it and kind of understand how it feels, because most, I don't think it's a controversial statement to say that most racing games from the outside looking in look pretty identical. It's just getting your hands on. So it looks fine, but like
it's quite hard to fuck up a trailer like that, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Although saying that, Need for Speed managed it, so
yeah. But yeah, it looks all right. But like I would, that's a game that I need to play, actually get my hands on.
Yeah. Now, I know Paddy was kind of looking forward to the Crew before it came out, and it got a bit of a smashing from most parties, it has to be said. But now it's settling in around about £13 second hand. I quite fancy forming a crew.
Yeah. As long as they fix that bit.
No, I'll get £13 out of that, guaranteed. Yeah. And if we're sort of mucking about online together with it, even more so, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously enough of a consistent number of players on the servers and playing the game to warrant having this come out, because this is 6 months after the game was released that they are announcing this, so it's not like they couldn't have pulled the plug. It's not like they announced it before it was released or anything, as far as I know. This was the first I've heard of it.
If it had been a catastrophe sales wise,
there's no reason to have continued developing this. No, not at all. So
so Crew looks alright. Moving on, Division. Once again, rearing its ugly head.
Hang on.
I'm just going by the notes that my cohort has written. Have we missed one?
I wrote it down in the order it came up, so it's possible this appears elsewhere, but I think it might be worth talking about. Another ostensibly motorised vehicular game that looked absolutely bananas.
Which was?
Trials Fusion.
Yeah. Oh, right, the unicorn cat garbage. Yeah, balls to Trials Fusion, balls to it.
I don't know. I think I don't know. It feels like they've made internet fodder, and I'm sure it'll probably be fun. But it feels like, what's the internet like? They're like lol random, so let's do that. I don't know. Rub me a little bit up the wrong way.
It's a cat on a unicorn. It's obviously it's supposed to be just creating a meme for itself.
But it doesn't say anything.
No idea what it is.
You have to remember that a marketing team came up with that, Paddy. They're not looking for substance when they create it.
I want the unicorn to have a backstory.
The funny thing is, like, before the full reveal, when they were just showing flashes of the horse and the gun and stuff, I was thinking, is this Darksiders free?
More than one person says,
Did Ubisoft pick up that that IP or what? And then, no, it's not.
I think that ended up at Deep Silver, and we sort of worked out just before it. But no, absolutely, hooves and flames, and you thought, Darksiders, let's have that back. Bit more cartoony, that's okay. Why is that a cat?
when it first kind of started flashing up on screen, I was like, they're doing another Blood Dragon. I wonder what game it's around. I just thought, this looks bonkers, and it's the motorbike game.
I actually really like Trials Fusion, so I might check it out. But
I think the interesting thing for this is it's an attention-grabbing trailer, but it tells you nothing about the game. You could hypothesize that they're going to reskin a bike and you'll be playing a horse or a unicorn now, but who honestly knows what that is? Just literally no information.
It just seems like a bit of a desperate attempt to me, to keep working on Trials Fusion, because there's nowhere else you could go.
It seems like a desperate attempt if you don't like the original game, but if you do, I'm sure it seems like a bit of sort of wacky add-on extra material that you might quite like, I suppose. But
maybe.
But it's just again out of nowhere and no idea what to make of it. But I couldn't in good faith pass up the opportunity to talk about a cat firing a golden gun on the back of a unicorn that's breathing fire. That's only in video games, folks.
I must have sighed the words right off of my pad.
It's just your mind just blanks them away.
Just ink dissolving and flowing away from white paper.
I like to think that you snapped your pen in half at that point and had to go and get another one before you could.
No, it's very difficult to find glitter gel pens these days, and I wasn't going to do that.
Barbara, get the Tipex.
So yeah, we had all of our commentary on The Division yesterday. What do you make of it, Josh?
I'll be honest. I don't know what to make of it at the moment. It doesn't. I'm not, I don't dislike what I've seen of it, but nothing has yet really excited me. I'm kind of waiting for. I don't know what I'm waiting for. It's just at the moment I'm viewing it as just another multiplayer shoot man's game, but then again, there have been cases where I've been wrong about that, and I've ended up liking games. I don't know. I feel like I don't know enough about the game to make an informed decision about it.
Yeah, I think it becomes slightly less exciting every time they've shown it. Except that little bit at the end where they all start turning on each other. That was cool. But I don't know.
That's definitely a cool mechanic. But I don't know. The setting is just not drawing me in at all. Especially in the face of stuff like Fallout 4, which is kind of doing the post-apocalyptic thing in a much more kind of appealing way to me, at least. So
and you can shoot more than just mans.
Very little room for the small, sort of intimate stories in the Division 1 imagines.
Well, somebody went to the developers a few days ago and went, "Oh, what's happening with that tablet app that's going? Oh, we're not doing that anymore."
Yeah.
So
that looked fun though.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe that might have been shifted over to maybe Rainbow Six or something like that. But
honestly, I think they're abandoning that stuff. Like, I mean, Kinect was barely mentioned this year as well. So I think they're
Ubisoft specifically went for that with Watch Dogs, didn't they? And obviously, you've
hashtag Farley wrong.
And it seems like that stuff, aside from Fallout 4, which I think the Pip-Boy app was quite well received, relatively speaking, but I think otherwise people have kind of happily left that aside. It seems.
Yeah. Division. This game. So, moving on to a game that I couldn't work out what it was when it was on screen. I don't play a lot on the PC, so I don't really follow this one. Anno. I was like, is it Civilization? What are we looking at?
It's a city builder.
It's a city.
More like SimCity. Civilization,
Who's
I
playing
think
Anno?
I have. I like
good?
Anno.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, it's very good. I think the most recent entry in the Anno series is better than the most recent entry in the SimCity series. I mean, like, you have to be into that genre. Like, it's not for the faint-hearted, I don't think. But like for people who are fans of city builders, I think it's very good. I think this could be very good. Well, there's nothing. I mean, there's nothing about it that kind of. I don't know how it's going to be different, apart from the fact that you can go to other planets and stuff. But I don't think that's particularly hard to do with that type of game. So we'll see. I think it will be good. I'm pretty sure it will be good, given its track record.
135 years since Anno 2070 was the last one, but I know other people who are fond of the older Anno games that are set further back in the past and have a bit more of a historical input. And I think the difficulty is a bit like at that point in Civilization, when you get past the kind of the point where your technology moves into space, it's kind of like, well, after this point we're kind of making it up as we go along. That sense of history and knowing where the path leads goes, and so it'll be interesting to see going to 2205 that kind of, presuming that's where the starting point of this game is, and the technology there, it could make it really interesting if they manage to kind of flesh it out and make it feel right. But there's kind of no touchstone because there's no expectations for what the world should look like in 2205, I guess.
I mean, I'm not a PC gamer, but I was really rather taken by this. I really like the ship designs as well, and all the technology looked really a little bit 70s and quite Sid Mead and very smooth and wonderfully designed. And I'm sure one of the developers said that you don't actually start off on one of the planets. You kind of have to earn your way to getting there. And I was like, oh, cool. But yeah, I mean, if I ever do manage to get beyond the kind of bucket of bolts that's running on the kindness of strangers in the corner of the room, this is something that I'd like to play, I must admit.
Yeah. There was a Wii version of an Anno game previously.
Really?
Yes. I forget the name of it, but there was a Wii version that was obviously designed with that control in mind. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that a game like Anno 2205 could find its way onto a console, but as always with these things, the control scheme would be kind of the make or break part of that particular deal. Not that they've said anything remotely about that, that's just pure speculation on my part.
I might have a look into that Wii version and see what it's like. Because
cool.
It's bound to be a pittance at this point. So
yeah, I would imagine so,
yeah. Right, so moving swiftly on to the obligatory dancing section. They do this every year, and it baffles me every year. They always have a big dance on stage. Just Dance 2016, this time with a celebrity guest whose name I forget.
Jason Derulo.
Yeah. Okay, is he popular with the kids?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who he is.
Because you see, I occasionally I will do a really reasonable Bee Gees impression at work and sing along to some of the songs that are on the company soundtrack, but do Bee Gees versions of them, and they sounded better than this lad that was apparently number one.
Number one in the singles and album charts, no less. Yeah.
I have no idea. I felt old, but at the end of the day, Just Dance 2016 is a huge. That whole sort of Just Dance legacy is huge for Ubisoft, and it's not for me. But there's lots of people that I know that will buy consoles for this sort of game, and they'll enjoy keeping fit to it, or when they've got their friends round, or having a laugh, or their kids will dance to it. Fantastic, all well and good. I'm happy to see anybody in games that's finding a niche and finds a way of getting in front of a console and having a good time.
I think what Josh said earlier about the crew and what you were all actually talking about, which is a driving game is very difficult to show without actually giving someone a feel for it. That kind of harkens back to what we were saying yesterday about EA's sports section, which is, certainly I feel it's very tough to show that in a way that appeals to people who aren't interested and actually is useful for people who are interested. Because it's all about the small incremental changes or new systems and how they're going to impact the feel of playing the game. And I think that's the same here. I saw a demo of Rock Band on, I think that was on the YouTube stream, on the post show after, I think it might have been after Sony actually, but it looks like 4 people I don't know having, albeit a lot of fun, but falling to their knees and doing a guitar solo. It doesn't tell me anything about the game.
That was terrible. Was that on the Jeff Keighley show?
Yeah.
It told me that they were scrubs because they were playing on easy, and that offended me. Like, they're playing one note every minute. That's terrible.
But
I think it's telling that for driving games we see cars, for sports games we see sports stars or Hoop Gold. Yeah, brilliant.
So for dancing games we get
for a Just Dance game, Ubisoft bring out a pop star to perform a song and have dancers there. It doesn't actually tell us anything about the game, but that's the best they've got to show something to appeal to someone about the game, because
Yeah.
you can't experience it without playing it yourself. You can't get a feel for how it might play.
But I think ultimately these moments in these shows aren't really for anyone who's going to be playing these games in the first place. Like these are shareholder moments. Like these are just to remind the money men, yes, we're making the game that makes loads of money. Don't worry, keep investing in our company.
Well, they have said this year as well that people don't need a Kinect or PlayStation camera, that you can actually sort of put your phone in your pocket and swing your booty and that will be picked up. That's kind of cool.
To be fair, they said that last year at E3, and this is now them actually, in theory, putting it into play. So
gotcha. Yeah, that was when they were sort of dancing in the sort of the aisles and the cheap seats. And
yeah.
Good moment. What a time to be alive.
But no, Josh, you're absolutely right. It's not even about it. Not only is it not for old men podcasters who don't know who Jason Derulo is, it's also it's not really for fans of the game, aside from look, there's a new version of this game coming, get excited for it. But
I mean,
I'm still
just having like a constantly accessible network of songs that you can get to, like with some of the best the best hits from it. That seemed actually like quite a good improvement on it, because obviously these games always live and die by the track list on them, don't they? And the fact you can get more is what kept Rock Band alive, what kept Guitar Hero alive, and what could probably keep this alive as well.
I mean, it clearly doesn't cost UB much to make it, but it brings in sort of all the cash, and you've got to look at it within the. For all of these things that are making stupendous amounts of money, UB risk a Grow Home or a Child of Light, anything. If something's, especially if something's not particularly for me, and God knows I've got enough games to play. If it nudges some of those into real, the real, then I'm chuffed about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I think we all moan about this kind of stuff on Twitter and stuff like that, and it was funny seeing Leon have a go at people, but I think we all know what Leon was saying. It's just sometimes you need to relieve a bit of tension when you're watching a long show like this. So I was prone to the odd facetious remark during these conferences, but
we can all wax nice and lyrical, but at this point it's like and now one of the most popular fuck off.
Yeah.
When you
I mean, I'll come on this podcast and go but this is a shareholder moment, blah 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 blah. But on Twitter, I just screw this. I hate everything.
But that's the difficult thing, isn't it? I really enjoyed this E3, but if anyone had been on the Skype call with me, I was still finding, maybe not as much as previous years, still finding plenty to take pot shots at. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, just because you're in the moment and there's things about it that maybe leave, that don't hit or leave it sour taste in the mouth. And when you're watching it, it seems like a bigger deal. And when, absolutely, as you say, you rationalise it now, and it's like, well, yeah, of course I can see why Just Dance was here. Why wouldn't it be? It's a very important game for Ubisoft.
But at the time, you want to see the next Man-Shoot game, don't you?
That is such a good segue, but I'm going to have to point it out.
Oh, I see what you did there.
The next
like a basset hound sniffing out the next game with Angela Bassett in it.
Yeah, Rainbow Six Siege, which is, even though like we said, we talked about this one before on the last show, but as a game that looks like I'd be bad at it, looks really interesting. Josh, what did you make of Rainbow Six Siege?
It looks like my kind of shooter in that it's much more measured and much more about tactical kind of combat and engagement and stuff like that. And the moment where they kind of scaled down the building on ropes and were looking through the window, I was like, oh, okay, this is my kind of thing, where it's much more about precision and kind of trying to take out as few people as possible. I mean, comparatively to some games that I like, I'm sure Rainbow Six Siege will have a massive body count, but it seemed to focus on the things that I like about the genre rather than the kind of combat fatigue that I get from stuff like Call of Duty and stuff. I think it looks interesting. yeah, whether the finished product is appealing is. I feel like I'm saying this with every single game. Whether or not the final product ends up being as good as this really choreographed trailer they showed us is to be seen. But like, as a proof of concept, I really like what they showed, and I'm kind of interested.
Yeah, a lot of the people that have seen it and that have played it, like Timur has and Steve Burns at Video Gamer have come away really impressed with it. So that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, moving very swiftly on then. Next game, colourful, fast car game, Trackmania Turbo. And CJ, explain your note you've written here because I don't get it.
Yeah, there was a game years and years ago by a chap who did a game called The Sentinel back on the Commodore 64, which I loved. And he did I think the guy's name was Jeff Crammond, and he did a game called Stunt Car Racer. And it reminded me a little bit of that. Also, as a kid, I used to have this thing called I'm sure it was called like a streak set, and you got these bendy plastic sort of ridged, sort of long, I don't know, things that you could lock together and make the loops around, and then you could brum a car, or you could go out in the back garden. You could maybe take it up to your bedroom window or something, and then like drop cars and be like whoosh, and like it was great. But Trackmania Turbo just looked like stupid amounts of fun. I really liked what I saw, I must admit.
It looked fun, but it looked like I'd be terrible at it, because I've tried Trackmania before and I cannot fucking do it. My eyes can't go fast enough anymore.
And just like those sort of toy car sets when you're a kid and you make the stunts that are clearly never going to work because physics doesn't work that way, but you don't quite understand that yet. When they were designing the track and the nice man pressed the accelerator pedal and flew straight into the sign, and you thought, yep, that's what my tracks will be like. Good.
I think like because nowadays there's more sort of Hot Wheels type stuff, but back when I was doing it, it was like Matchbox cars, and this is when they were like properly metal. So you needed to brum that thing with the strength of a god to give it the momentum to sort of go around the loop. But therein lay the rub. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'm up for Trackmania Turbo. That looks like a laugh.
It looks mad. It looks like it's going to probably come out quite cheap as well. I don't know. I feel like it'll be a cheap one, in the vein of Trials was maybe. I don't know. It looks like it's going to come out quite cheap, and I hope so, because I'd like to give it a go.
Yeah. If someone said to you, "Oh, you're interested in this?" Yes, yeah, that'll be £40, please. You'd be like, not quite that interested.
Yeah, but for like 15, go on then.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So whizzing away like a stunt car to Ubi's last game, a new reveal. Though once again, those poor mans, it's not going good for the mans. Mans are getting shot a lot. The new Ghost Recon, as CJ has written in his note here, white hat, white drugs.
Yeah, I don't think that's the official subtitle, but I remember seeing like a man with a white hat, and he was very hard done to in a number of ways. I didn't understand the white hat man, but I do remember Billy Blue Hat and all these sort of old children's stories, and I just feel he's either fallen on bad times or got in with the wrong lot, because he was quite a sweet set of children.
So are we sticking to Ghost Recon White Hat, White Drugs as the title then?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if they've changed it since then.
What did we think? Like, I like it. Kind of, I wasn't sure what it was at first. Like,
a bit of a guessing game. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it could have been anything. It looked a bit Just Cause-y at times. Like it's
and therefore you might think from setting maybe Call of Juarez, something like that. They were taking that in a different direction.
Yeah,
but
I mean, for me, it reminded me most of the first Mercenaries game, in that it felt like you're in this open world and you had certain targets you had to capture or kill or what have you. And yeah, you were free to do that in whatever way you wanted. I think it looks potentially good, but I don't have a particularly positive track record with the Ghost Recon series, so I still don't know.
Yeah, I think that game's going to live and die on the friends you play it with, probably.
Yeah.
It's another one of those grab your friends and go do a thing games, and I think that will live and die with the mates that you pick. I think playing it online on your own. Sorry, I don't know. I don't think it will. It doesn't look fun on your own. I think that'll be right. You go around the back, you go around that, and 3, 2, 1, and hey! Like not in a calm, precise, calculated way, like the other Tom Clancy game, Rainbow Six Siege, in a big let's bring some big guns and have some fun kind of way.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe it looks fun. I don't know.
I do like the fact that Ghost Recon's kind of known as a kind of, well, certainly to my mind, as a high tech sort of tactics based, almost stealth team type thing. Hence Ghost Recon. Whereas in this case, it seems to be more of a sort of ramshackle guerrilla undercover team of say DEA agents, or a anti-drugs, anti-organized crime squad. So it's taking a very different notion of what a ghost team might look like in terms of how it would operate, and it's the tactics and whatnot that they use. So yeah, interesting. But as you say, seems to be kind of based in the same way that GTA 5 heists are. You kind of want a group of people there so that the mayhem is more fun, and the sort of planning and getting ready is less frustrating.
Yeah. So to round off then on Ubi, before we move on, thoughts on the show in general? Good, bad? Do you think it was pacey? Do you think they had any major hits and misses?
I think it was wildly inconsistent. There were moments that I really liked, and there were moments that were really awkward and weird.
But that's very consistent for Ubi, though. That's what they do.
Yeah, it's the most I've enjoyed an Ubisoft show in quite a while, but it still had the idiosyncrasies that Ubisoft shows tend to have.
The best bit of the show was when I realised that Aisha Tyler was wearing flat shoes, because she didn't seem twice the size of East Guillemot.
Yeah, only 1.7 times the size this time. Yeah. Oh, she does dwarf little Eve, doesn't he? Okay, well, let's move swiftly on to the bombshell drop megaton of Sony this year.
Bloody
Let's kick it off hard now. What a game to start the show on, showing The Last Guardian again. What did we think about this making an appearance again?
Well, I mean, I
you
love
fell off your
Ueda.
chair, didn't you?
Yeah, basically. I mean, because Keith Stewart from Guardian Games kind of hinted that he kind of knew that Last Guardian was going to show up. But I mean, Keith Stewart's more trustworthy than most people, so I didn't kind of dismiss when he said that. But we've heard that every year. Every year, somebody goes, "Oh, the Last Guardian's going to show up. I bet you $100 or what have you."
Yeah.
And by this point, it's kind of like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, you can't see the wood from the trees by this point. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but I just, I mean, like Shadow of the Colossus is in like a freeway battle with Dark Souls and Persona 3 in an eternal battle to decide which is my favourite game of all time. So depending on what day of the week you ask me, Shadow of the Colossus is my favourite game of all time. So I like this game. I unreasonably excited for.
Yeah.
I think Ueda is one of my favourite game designers ever, up there with I think it's safe to say that we all like Miyazaki in this Skype call. He's okay.
One of the producers from Bloodborne is working on this as well.
Really? Oh, Jesus. That's amazing. But yeah, I would consider Ueda to be up there with the likes of Miyazaki. I think he's a genius, and just seeing actual gameplay and stuff like that, where just seeing the kid jump up and down to tell the creature to jump over the chasm, that was like a really beautiful moment of actually using interactivity in that way to communicate was really exciting, and the animation on the creature is amazing. It's like all the best qualities of a cat, a dog, and a bird, and a whatever else is in there. Like just the way its ears perked up when you jumped over the ledge, and all of that stuff. It's an amazingly animated creature.
Yeah.
And it has that kind of like melancholic beauty that all of Ueda's games have had. It's kind of sad but kind of arresting at the same. Just you can't help but go, oh god, this is so gorgeous. Yeah, I couldn't.
When the big thing dies at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, shut up.
That's too obvious.
It's too obvious.
It's too obvious at this point.
Yeah. I couldn't be more excited for this game.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The thing is, because that got everyone on Twitter going a bit mad. Like, they've started with this. This is where they've begun. What could they possibly have left? Which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a real like sudden pop and fizz. Like, what's going on? Anything could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly what stood out to me. Oh, the fact that I thought that demo was just outstanding and demonstrated the very best of Team Ico's games past, kind of distilled into this, kind of almost goes without saying, because I think anyone who's seen that demo and has enjoyed their previous games is going to feel the same. But the thing that struck me was Sony not only brought it, because at this point it could well have been just a vapor game, non-existent and not having been existent for years, but the fact they put it first shows immense confidence that A, this is going to happen, B, they understand that people want this game, and how important it is to people who consider themselves fans of Ico and Shadow of the Colossus. But to also have the man that everyone kind of believed had walked away from this game, the kind of kept on as a consultant line was like, yeah, okay, but not really. To have him there, to introduce him, to ask him to stand up and take the crowd's appreciation, just shows immense confidence from Sony that this game is going to arrive and therefore not going to disappoint, because it can't, basically they can't let it, having kind of let it simmer for 7-8 years now since it was first announced. So,
amazing show of respect for Ueda as well. Amazing show of respect from the crowd as well. And that felt genuine. Like the crowd, those guys in the back leaning behind, sort of shaking his hand and being like, "Ooh, he's there."
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, no, I am stupendously excited. I had the privilege of watching this whole show twice, because I stayed up late to watch it live, and then got to watch it again the next morning with my wife. And again, it was quite fun because I just watched her because she didn't know.
Yeah.
She didn't know. She's like, "Oh, is it good? What are they showing?" I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you a thing. You don't even know. You don't even know anything. And yeah, just having the reaction and then seeing her have the reaction as well. Magic, bloody magic.
Yeah.
You managed to hold it together enough to string sentences. If someone had said, "Is it good?" I think my response would have just been,
I think it was. I think I pretty much just said, "You don't even know. You don't even know. You don't know anything. You know nothing." But yeah, then out on stage pops out Shuhei Yoshida, who rather joyfully said that you don't understand how long I've been waiting to show you that. Yes, we do. We really, really do. Shu, as always, really well received. The crowd love him. Everyone loves Shuhei Yoshida. He's great. And introduced the new game from Guerrilla, which
Whoa!
we've gone too fast.
You've gone too fast. I am part of this podcast, and I have things to say about The Last Guardian.
Ugh.
Right?
Go.
When it first came on, there was a degree of like, oh my god, they are starting with this, and sort of a real sort of claw hammer over the head of like, well played, you're starting off massively. My connection to the previous games, I haven't really played at Ico much at all. The author of my favourite book wrote the novelisation of Ico, which is incredible. I've not played Shadow of the Colossus, but I think there have been better demos of The Last Guardian on PS3 than this one. Certainly ones that I've been more engaged with, because this was, as pretty as it looks, was a kid trying to jump onto things that it couldn't reach, and a cat, bird, dog that was trying to stand on things that it was too fat for, and all those things collapsed, and one of them had to grab the other or grab one its tail, and they started back where they were previously. And I've seen other ones where the creature's bigger, where the child's getting chased by enemies, and the creature's too big to get into the room, or he's trying to look around and he's panicking. and those I thought were tremendously powerful. But this one, I mean, it backed up an important reveal, and apparently the game's not going to be until like 2017, so it's a way away.
It's 2016.
No, they said it's not guaranteed to be 2016.
No, it's not guaranteed, but that was the number that came up at the end of the demo. So
look, they have got the guy who made
confident
Knack
enough to put it there.
They have got the guy who made Knack working on this. This is coming out, yo.
I think it's. I mean, it would shut up the people that have said like, "Oh, is it dead? Is it dead? Is it dead?" But for me, I've seen better demos of The Last Guardian than that, and wasn't massively moved by the stuff that we saw in comparison to the things that I'd been emotionally invested in the past, and certainly not as much as what followed, to be honest.
I got a big sense of eco from this demo, more than I kind of had from previous demos, and that's great for me because, don't get me wrong, I love Shadow of the Colossus, but when I first played eco, I was incredibly reminded of particularly Boletarian Palace and the way that the level design works, and you can kind of see where you've been and see where you're going throughout the game, and so that kind of the environment that they're in, and the kind of the way you can move the camera around and take a look at your surroundings and try and build together what the place might have been previously and where you're going to go through it. That sense that Eco gave me was right there in this demo. So yeah, I looking forward to that aspect of it. But yeah, I get what you mean, that it was kind of a one puzzle, one room demo, and
I think for me, because I've been so emotionally taken with the stuff that I'd seen on. I don't think it was the first PS3 demo. I think it was maybe one that followed after that. But I was genuinely taken by that. So I know that's further on in the game. But as a kind of little visual splash, that didn't do as much for me as the things that I've seen before.
I think for me the big reason why this demo, I'm kind of repeating what James said really, but the big reason why this demo had such an impact on me is because it felt so much like a Ueda game, and like I can see how he's going to build on top of what we saw and add more and more layers to it. And I you know, a big reason why I'm excited for this game is simply because of his past work. Like Shadow of the Colossus is just so important to me, like unbelievably important, and I just desperately want to see something else from that guy's brain, and everything in that demo kind of reminded me of why I love this developer so much.
Yeah, touchstones of memories that you've made and things that you love.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Cool. Can we move on now?
Yeah,
thanks for including me, Pat. It's really nice of you.
Forgot you were here.
Really?
No, I love you really. Yeah, okay, so moving on. New game from Guerrilla. That's not called Killzone. I sort of knew something was coming because I've got a pal who works for the Cambridge studio. I knew something was coming, but I didn't know what it was. And they've announced Horizon Zero Dawn, which for me was one of the surprise reveals of the show that really has sort of taken me a bit by surprise. It looks amazing. Like, it looks really, really good.
Plus, I saw before a few days before E3 that Guerrilla had been hiring ex-Witcher developers and the writer of Fallout New Vegas, and at that point I was like, oh. But what we saw on screen genuinely gobsmacked me. As folks were saying about The Last Guardian, this for me was just like, this looks painterly. It looks a little bit Monster Hunter. I love the aspect of the world falling into ruin, but these creatures being born of technology, but being very much like animals and scavenging them as you would in Monster Hunter for odd bits. You sort of building armor and you're building. It just looked. Everything about this was just ballpark for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is secretly the best reveal of E3, simply because some of the other reveals that I'm sure we're going to talk about, they were kind of like teases, whereas this, they kind of felt confident enough to actually show some gameplay footage and stuff like that. And like you say, I got a heavy Monster Hunter vibe from everything mechanically. Just collecting resources from the creatures, and just also the way she took out the robot T-Rex, kind of slowly dismantling it until finally she took it down. That kind of felt a lot like a Monster Hunter battle. There's a little bit of Vanquish in there as well, where she's sliding under the creature. I couldn't help but feel that was quite similar, and it looks gorgeous. I mean, for me, I'm just really glad that Guerrilla working on something really fresh and imaginative, because I've always felt like they're a talented game studio. They've just been kind of stuck with a really dull franchise to deal with. And this is someone's, I speak as someone who really likes the Killzone multiplayer. I can take or leave the single player, but I think the multiplayer is superb. I just think the world of Killzone and the characters are really like kind of, cookie cutter kind of sci-fi, whereas this feels really fresh and different and interesting.
Well, similarly with Recore that was on the Microsoft show, I got a real Enslaved feel from this as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not only that, but with a redhead female protagonist, it's like, this felt like a Ninja Theory game in that respect. I think it's really interesting that we've all kind of named different games or series or things that we think we saw inspiration from, because that to me says that this doesn't feel necessarily, or it may not, we're not getting the impression that it's somehow ripping off or trying to copy another franchise. It feels more like they are spreading their wings, Guerrilla Games, and instead of being given a remit of make a Halo killer, as they were with Killzone, they're being allowed to express themselves a bit more.
I mean, it felt. I mean, as you were saying, it felt very much like its own world. I am genuinely intrigued to see this end of the world that's brought these machines, and they weren't just sort of these massive snarling creatures. There was an ecology about them. There was personality about them. There was almost a sadness, even though that big T-Rex type creature was built of armament and things like that at points. There was it seemed it had personality despite being made of bolts and metals and guns and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And forgive my hippie vegan bent on it, but I did like the fact that this felt like a world in balance, where this protagonist was trying to exist alongside the animals. She wasn't going out to hunt animals. She went out to she tried to knock a canister of something off the back of one of the animals. That wasn't a killing shot with the bow. She didn't actually put herself in danger's way or try and harm any of the creatures until she was attacked. And that.
Well, do you remember the first thing that she said? It was like, "I'm really sorry, little one."
Yeah, absolutely.
So imbuing again, it's not a degree of like us versus them. There's this almost begrudging respect.
Well, it goes back to say sort of like I've used this particular word last time as well, but a nomadic existence where you have to live in harmony with the world, and you can't afford to just kill everything in your path, because what you're going to do then is run out of resources. So what you have to do is be careful to only take what you need and to be very economical with the resources around you in the world. So
this is definitely my joint game of the show. I'm really, really smitten with this, and knowing the talents that they brought on, you can kind of see the Witcherous aspect in like the painted look of like the skies and the grasses and the colours used, and also if they've got a really strong writer involved as well. I'm honestly, there's nothing about this that I'm not excited about.
I mean, honestly, that's the thing that excites me the most, is that they've got the writer from New Vegas on board, and like, say whatever you will about the rest of that game being a bit of a technical mess, the writing was exceptional. So if they can bring that to a more polished product, thumbs up.
Definitely.
Plus Ginger Hero, which if anyone who's listened to my Recycle Bin episode I did a while ago, we don't have many and it bugs me. So you want more for the pot.
You're a bit of a redhead, Patrick. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, no, I like to keep it quite secret. I get bullied online if people find out. It's not fair. Well, that's a good point to move on then. From red hair to a lack of hair. Hitman. Anyone?
Meh.
Yeah.
Really excited.
Okay. Why are you excited, James Carter?
Didn't like Absolution. There was a lot said about Absolution that sounded great on the lead-in, but it played more like a linear action game to me, and it wasn't what I enjoyed about Blood Money and particularly Hitman 2, which was more kind of almost sandbox environments with multiple different weird and wonderful, vastly diverse different ways to kind of solve problems. There was little bits of it, but it felt like a studio that had made Kane and Lynch in between times. Not to disparage those games necessarily, just it didn't feel like Hitman to me. And again, that's who am I to demand Hitman games to feel like what I should want. But there were a couple of bits in the trailer where, you know, busting a door open with a wrench, I think it was, and throwing it at the guard. Maybe not very expert and not very stealthy, but a lot of what they were saying interested me. The notion that they're not trying to get it as a complete entity at release, they're going to add extra content to it, also means that they can respond to player feedback, the way people play the game, the way things work, and they can change things, which would have been great for Absolution because there were some good ideas in it that just didn't really go anywhere. And also in between then and now, they've made Hitman Go and Hitman Sniper, and the sort of pre-order sniper challenge from Hitman Absolution was the best thing about that development around that game. So yeah, and what I've heard since that trailer and the little bit that was shown at the Square Enix show, what I've heard about this has me very intrigued, and the fact that it's coming in December as well is much quicker than I expected. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Hitman series anyway, and again, I might just be being fooled by their PR, and so, you know, sue me for wanting to believe the best, but no, very excited about this, the potential for it at least.
It does appear that they're sort of freeing it up a bit. I mean, I've watched a couple of other trailers about it later. I think they'll mention it later, but they're sort of targets that only appear for 48 hours, and you only get one go at them, and if you fuck up, that's it, they're gone. See, that's the kind of stuff that interests me. Like that's cool. Yeah.
And contracts mode was a good idea, if not really successfully implemented. This notion of leaderboards and scores and challenges between players, very interesting. It's just that they had those ideas in Absolution, it's just it didn't work because there was a maximum score you could get in the level, and so within about a day I found myself at joint first on the leaderboard, knowing there was nowhere to go, there was no improvement to be made, so what was the point, you know? So yeah, hopefully they've taken what worked in Absolution and looked at the feedback they got from not just myself but other people saying, you know, there's stuff that they didn't like, and maybe trying to do something different. So yeah, hopeful.
Excellent.
I would say was my response.
Yeah, Josh, anything on Hitman?
Not really.
That's fine.
I'd just be repeating what James said.
Sorry,
my memory
apparently I had a lot to say about that.
You did.
My only memory of Hitman is playing the game on the GameCube and trying to throttle somebody with some piano wire, but looking like I was riding an invisible pony.
That sounds great. What didn't you like about that?
Yeah, maybe if it had just been a bit more honest with being riding an invisible pony simulator, that would have been funnier.
So yeah, Hitman. Okay. Moving swiftly on. New edition of Street Fighter 5, coming soon, I believe, exclusively to the PS4 and PC, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe somebody's also bought a fight stick recently. Mr. Carter.
At this point in the conference, I was a puddle on the floor. It was. I tweeted, and I think Josh kind of got back to me. It was just like, they're just, every game is just a when can I have this please. Street Fighter 5 I've been following since December when it was announced. November. I think probably when it was announced. Yes, the platform exclusivity is not ideal for everyone. Obviously, a lot of people who have Xbox Ones feeling left out, and I feel for them, I really do. It sounds like Capcom and Sony have been saying, no, Sony are helping develop this. This is never going to be on another console that isn't a Sony platform, and at this point that's PS4. So, but yeah, they've announced 6 characters so far. There was a trailer came out, I think. I can't remember if it leaked or if it had actually been officially released just before the Sony conference, saying that Cammy and Birdie, who I think a lot of people scratch head and go back and look and see who Birdie is. Although, to be fair, if you played his Alpha rather than 3, he was in, I think. But Birdie's actually a character from way back in the original Street Fighter, who was a different ethnicity back then, and obviously at that point wasn't playable because it was just Ryu and Ken versus multiple other weird and wonderful characters. But he was way back in there then, and I've been watching the tournaments they had at E3 since then, which they got a bunch of sort of well-known professional fighting game players in and had them playing the new characters, and just absolutely stoked for this.
Excellent. I did see a GIF float around. It appears they can't decide what physics they want.
Apparently there's a glitch in the game where if only the female characters, because that's how these things work,
of course,
are on the second player side, so the right hand side of the screen in the kind of character select matchup, the physics around the chest area will be over the top, where like proper over the top. Yeah. Whereas if they're on the left hand side, they're absolutely fine. So it does seem to be that it's a glitch. I think
it's
actually
pretty funny though.
It raised a lot of eyebrows, and I sort of, hang on, what game is this we're looking at now? But I think Glenn Watts said actually what often happens is a lot of these things are effectively sliders, or they're on a scale, and what will happen is animators and programmers will kind of turn the sliders to each extreme, to 0 and up to maximum, to try and see if they can see any problems with it. You'll notice the problems more if something is overt and obvious, and then maybe it just didn't get turned back down. That was his supposition, and he knows far more about these things than I do. But apparently Sony and Capcom were quite quick to say, no, this is a glitch. We know about it. It's already fixed in the main game.
Oh, okay.
It shouldn't have happened, and it's fine.
Yeah.
But
and another enjoyable gift for the vault, though.
Yeah.
I like. I mean, I'm not really a fighting game enthusiast to play, but I like watching fighting games being played.
Yes.
So this is something that I'll probably watch on Twitch, because I know the guy that taught me a lot about Souls PvP, True Talent, I've mentioned on Twin Humanities before, is a Street Fighter player by trade, and he's currently playing Mortal Kombat X, but I find those incredibly watchable. So, but it's quite strange that it's not a game that I go out and play. And I think it started actually with watching some of that Persona fighting game on Twitch, and I became really kind of addicted to just seeing people playing this in this tournament, and it's kind of gone on from there, really.
Okay.
Excellent.
Right, so Street Fighter 5 then. Moving swiftly on to another show darling, another one that everyone's always excited to see. The ever-intriguing No Man's Sky made another appearance with an actual gameplay demo, I think, for the first time we've really seen. What do we think about this? Did it look like the sort of thing you want to play, or...?
Yeah, I mean, it continues to be a game that I really, really want. I think it seeing it this time, it lost the kind of, whoa, like it did the first time I saw it, but that's just, that's to be expected. But yeah, I really like what they're selling. The only problem is, like, is that actually going to be what it is when it comes out? Because it's so ambitious, like what they're trying to create, like this massive universe of randomly generated planets and stuff like that. If it works, that would literally be incredible. But I don't know. Maybe it's not going to be what they're selling, but we'll see.
Every interview I've read and every article always says that this is mental, this shouldn't work. But it so far sort of appears to work. At the moment they do that big pullback when they go through all the stars, and you're like, seriously, all of them? What?
They showed a bit more of the actual. I don't know what you can actually do this time, and I don't think it was maybe fully realised yet, but it gave a wee bit of a clue.
Yeah, but I think 3 minutes isn't enough though.
It depends how shoehorned it is in there though, because I mean we've seen the ecology, we've seen the universe and how beautiful and brilliant that is, but people are asking to see what the game is, whether there is like guns or star battles, or it is like discovery, and it could be all of those things, but I'm wondering if those were almost sort of little chess pieces that were dropped in across the demo that we saw, just to give us an idea that maybe perhaps don't sit perfectly well yet. Yeah.
Well, the thing I want to know, so obviously they announced that you can break all of it. You know, you can shoot things and smash things and break everything. Will that be persistent? So if like another player comes to my world, will they see the crater of destruction that I've left and be like, what happened here? Like that excites me. Like I like the idea of finding a planet that's been just smashed to buggery and trying to work out what happened. I think that sounds brilliant. Or alternatively, getting a team together, finding a planet and just destroying it. Just destroying the whole thing. Can we agree to do that as gamers? Can we all agree that when it comes out, after a while, we'll all meet up on a planet and we'll just shoot the planet until it's gone?
But are those algorithms gonna transfer between everybody's game?
Because I have no idea.
I presumed that everybody got the same universe, but the things that you do to the planet were probably unique to your own game, and they weren't being fed to like a central server. Because that to me kind of pulls me out of it a little bit. Because it would be quite nice to like see one of my mates sort of flying near a planet, or I've discovered this, these are the coordinates, let's go. But I don't think it works like that. I just think that the universe is generated in a similar way in everybody's game, but you can't really meet up.
I don't know.
And you can't make there's no degree of permanence to the things that you do that will transfer across to other games, because that would be really difficult to manage.
Or maybe the world just grows back when you leave. Like maybe that's the case. I don't know, because it seems like you can meet up with friends. Like, it seems to be heavily hinted that there will be some sort of multiplayer and you can meet up with your pals, but again, not many details of that have come out yet. I don't know. Just the whole concept of what you can do just fascinates me, and I kind of want to get my hands on it. I really, really want to get my hands on it, just to try all this stuff out and push all these boundaries and just find out what we can do with it. Like, it's an enigma still. It's an enigma, and they're showing cool stuff, but I still don't know anything really about it, and I think that's kind of cool.
Do you think it's pretty frustrating though for a lot of folks? Because there are people that are pulling directly back from it and just don't think it's more of a tech demo or a wonderful piece of programming and a wonderful physics demonstration, but not necessarily it doesn't scream that it's going to be a wholesome experience to play.
I don't know. You're probably right. Like I can see people getting frustrated because it has been it's been 4 or 5 trade shows it's turned up at now. Roughly, and we still don't know an awful lot about it, and that does worry me to an extent. It does worry me because it's how long out is this thing? Like, we still don't have any release dates. We don't have anything yet. We don't know when it's coming. And I've got every faith in the team. They seem to be really, they're always up on it. They seem to love what they're making. But yeah, until it's real, I don't think we're going to know what it is. And I think that's just the limitation.
Finished, I think.
Yeah, until it's real, it's still going to be an enigma in a way that a Call of Duty, for example, isn't. You know what that's going to be. You can get a good idea, but it's just so out there and just so weird. Until we know exactly what you do, I think people are going to probably drift away from it because we need to. There's so much stuff coming out, so much cool stuff. You need something to grab onto and say, well, this is what I'm looking forward to. This thing here. But yeah, but generally still, I'm still super excited for it. It looks mad and grand and weird.
What do you think, gents?
Tag in anytime, gents.
Josh, I was going to let you speak if you would like to.
Oh, I've already spoken about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think, Patrick kind of hit the nail on the head there. Maybe is the kind of super secret, unspoken, hidden subtitle to the game, because from the first time it was shown, it's all about people projecting their expectations and hopes onto a game that was never going to be able to meet all of them, and we kind of just needed one of two things to happen. When it was first shown, there was such a great buzz about it that if it had come out 6 months later, it would have just, especially given that at the time it would have come out with far fewer games on the new, well, on the PS4 in this case, but on the new consoles generally. And it would have had, that kind of really short cycle and here's the game, and everyone would have kind of been wowed by it. And it's a weird thing because I've personally liked it slightly more and more every time I've seen it, but there is this notion, I think, amongst a lot of people that every time they see it, they're still left with this notion of what is the game? Is it going to meet my expectations? And over time, people start to become skeptical of that, either because they've seen something that isn't quite what they expected, or just they're not getting the answers to the questions they still have. I'm still really excited to see what it is, because it's kind of little, every demo there's a little bit extra shown, and this time we had combat and we had, seeing it ostensibly being played right in front of us. It's just, how are a lot of the systems that have been hinted at going to work, and are you going to be able to just hop into a game with your friends, etc. It's just such an unknown, but in some ways that's a great thing. But I think over time it does seem to be that some people who were really excited about it 3 years ago now when it was first shown, or slightly less than that I guess, but certainly 2.5, some people are kind of now at the point where, I just want this game to be out now. In some cases lost patience with it, which is a shame, I think.
I think if there's anything that more than gives them the benefit of the doubt on the actual game side of things, is that, as I understand it, Joe Danger was one hell of a game, and really good fun to play, really intricate, just a real joy of design, and I wouldn't imagine that they'll let this go unless there's that same degree of fun and craftsmanship on the actual game side of things.
Yeah. Well, speaking of craftsmanship, good segue. These segues are on point today. This is great.
They almost make themselves, don't they?
It's so good. Media Molecules Dreams. I am still baffled by what this is. Has anyone managed to divine what this is yet?
I think it's just a movie maker, from what I've seen. Sean Bell said this already, but I think this is kind of doomed to be like every other user generated kind of media molecule project, in that it looks really cool, but no one except people who are extremely dedicated to it are going to put any time into it, and it's going to kind of fall flat. And I kind of getting that feeling from this. It's it looks really cool, the tools look really cool and what have you, but I know I'm just going to play about with it for 5 minutes and then give up, and then play with people who are dedicated enough, they'll play their stuff for a little while and then just leave it on the shelf. I don't know. I think when this was Little Big Planet years and years ago, I would have been really, really excited for it. But now I've seen the reality of what that is. I can't get excited, unfortunately.
It seems to be an inferiority generator, doesn't it? Look at all the lovely things your friends can make. What have you made? A really badly rendered cock.
It's a wonderful thing though for Sony to have at their conference, because it shows something a little bit different, and it shows that they back the artistic side of things, and also that they continue to give Media Molecule their head, and I'm wondering if maybe there's been a little bartering with, if we take Tearaway to the PS4, as does that then give them leeway to release something that's quite artistic and creative? I'd hope so at the very least.
Yeah. I love the idea of this, as I did all the Little Big Planet games, and as I did Tearaway. Unfortunately, I am about as creative as a stone. I just have not an ounce of creativity in me when it comes to the more sort of typical artistic endeavours, just not at all. And so when I see people creating what look like sculptures and that kind of thing, I just think that is amazing, and I am amazed not only that this game exists and allows you to do that, but that the person doing it can do it, because I really can't. And I think that just means that I'll have to admire this one from afar, but I'm just in massive admiration that Sony and Media Molecule continue to make stuff like this. And I know several people who are artists, and for them to be able to fire up something on the PS4 that allows them to kind of blend two hobbies together, just sounds like it'll be an amazing experience for those people.
Yeah, and the simplicity they seem to be sort of pushing with it, that you just literally pick up your controller and just draw. That's cool. Like no dicking around with polygons and keyframes and animation cycles. Just move your controller about. That's very accessible. Yeah, great. Quick side note here, just to mention the, as always, wonderful Adam Boyes showing up on stage. I always like Adam Boyes. He's always cheerful. He's excitable. He loves to show off what he's got, and he's one of those people that really seems to like his job, and I think he knows what people want. CJ, you like Adam Boyes as well, don't you?
I love Adam Boyes. He's one of those people that's he seems like more than a suit. He just seems, he's like we were mentioning Todd Howard. He's very, very comfortable on stage. He feels like he's not talking down to you or pitching to you. He feels like he's got a secret to share, and I dig the heck out of that. That's awesome.
On a tiny little list of paper.
Oh, he's awesome. I like Boys.
Did you see how he got to E3?
No.
He did a road trip with Rami Ismail from Blambeer.
Oh, right.
Yeah, she's brilliant. It's brilliant.
That's a TV show I'd like to watch.
Speaking of watch, these segues. Firewatch.
I had to look this up because I'd kind of forgotten what it was, but I remember being quite amused by it at the time without quite getting the measure of exactly what it was.
Well, I always thought it was like a survival-y type game, but it seems to be much more it seems to have more of a plot, and there's more going on than initially appeared. James, have you much about this one at all? Or?
I know about this one because I listen to a bunch of the people who are making this natter on a podcast every week.
Cool.
So
Which
kind of
podcast
going
is that?
way back when. Idle Thumbs has been for a long time one of my favourite video gaming podcasts. I think the people on it are interesting to listen to talk about, much like you guys, for instance. Whatever they choose
talking
to,
lovely.
whatever they choose to talk about. But the two leads on The Walking Dead season 1, in terms of they wrote the first episode and the last one, I believe, and they were kind of in charge of doing the story and getting that to fruition. They both decided that they were going to leave before season 2 started, and start their own game company, and several interesting people have joined that game company that is now called Campo Santo, including Nels Anderson, who you can hear on the Kane and Rince episodes on Mark of the Ninja that Josh expertly hosted.
Cool.
That's how you do a segue, by the way.
Mic dropped. Carter leaves.
There's a lot of very interesting people and a lot of talent in this game studio called Campo Santo, and they've been very cagey, obviously, because they're on a podcast every week, and they've been trying not to give away too much about the game. So all I really knew about it up to this point was the name of it, and that it was set in the realms of people who try and deal with forest fires, basically. But again, from what they were talking about, rather than necessarily what was shown at this conference, it sounds like they're trying to make a first-person adventure game, not in the kind of abstract kind of lunacy of the old adventure games from like the 90s on PC, but more in the mould of a style of Gone Home, where you're exploring and kind of piecing it together. But there is apparently a very strong notion of a mystery at the centre of this, and a very strong narrative to be told, which just sounds like it could be something quite special, especially given the setting, which doesn't necessarily, I mean, if you talk about people who tackle forest fires, you would think, okay, this is about fighting fires, then why wouldn't it be? And so why have that setting and then choose to set a mystery there? And that just seems very intriguing to me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this is a game. I mean, it looks interesting, but this is a game that's been sold to me on the names involved in it more than anything else. Nels Anderson is kind of the one that kind of really screams out to me, because Mark of the Ninja is, it just in terms of design is kind of exceptional, and to have that kind of talent involved in this game, that really excites me. So and having the lead writers from the first season of The Walking Dead, which I still think is out of all of Telltale's recent endeavours, I think the first season of Walking Dead still stands out as the best written out of all of them. So to have those two involved is really good. And I mean, I want to see more of it. And it seems like because it's a mystery game and what have you, it's definitely one that I think you have to play before you know what it really is. But I'm intrigued.
Excited to find out what that's all about. I'm looking forward to it. This is like solitary as well, like the fact you're just alone in the wilderness with a radio. That I dig that. I really dig that. Okay, right. Moving swiftly on. The new add-on pack for Destiny, the Taken King. CJ, why don't you start on this one?
Yes! I've been watching loads of stuff on this. They seem to be holding a lot back with regards to certain amounts of the content, and I do have an issue with the price point. That just the new expansion, which is the size of the original game, granted, is £40 digitally, but is going for about 50 for Destiny, the previous two expansions and the new one, which seems a bit bonkers. And then the next step up from that, the Legendary Edition, seems to be a similar size, like box wise, to the original, filled with the normal guff that you get in a special edition. But unlike the first special edition, doesn't have the expansions in there, the next couple of expansions. So that rankles a little bit, but I like the idea of the new stuff that's coming to the classes. That the Warlock, which is normally a class which hangs back a little bit, has got this Emperor Palpatine type electricity weapon. The Hunter has a gravity bow, which is quite difficult to aim because you pause in the air. But if you hit somebody, you one-shot them, but you actually hit the ground, and there's a gravity well, and all these kind of sort of sticky spider lines come out and pull things towards the gravity well. The Titan has these flaming hammers that it can chuck out. Those seem pretty cool in of itself, but I watched a GameSpot interview this afternoon, and a PlayStation Access one as well, actually, where they said that the whole of the next strike is set on a massive dreadnought, and this thing is huge. It's they're gonna introduce the new alien types sort of bit by bit. There'll be points where it's echoey and quiet, and you have to get across like vast gaps and abysses and things, and then points where it all sort of goes to pot, and then at the end of it you've got Oryx the Taken King. I am double up for this. I'm very excited. I'm curious to see the changes they've made as well, because they say that they're going to be bringing in kind of a greater focus on storytelling and a few extra quirks in there that they're not laying on. So I'm all in with Destiny still. I've had so much fun with that game. I was playing it again today, but I'm really excited for the Taken King.
I agree with every single word you just said.
But it is a very divisive game. But it's interesting that the game still gets a huge amount of clicks from people that either love it or hate it on various sites, but that they've still got 20 odd million people playing every day, and people that are, you know, genuinely committed to it. And for some people, it's the only game that they play. I find that as fascinating as it is, you know, as it is kind of cool, but for a game that's in many ways is less than perfect, to have people that addicted and that hooked is intriguing.
Yeah, a good six or 8 months on from release, you know, and it's still busy as hell. You know, you can still just hop straight into a strike with people, and they'll be there in like 4 seconds. Like, it's good to go. It's insane.
And you're kind of falling in love with it all over again, aren't you?
Oh, I'm so stuck again. I am so bloody stuck with it again. I've just, something's clicked with it again, and I'm finally starting to get better loot. So I feel like I'm becoming like an unstoppable orange god.
I think there is the aspect, though, and it is a huge aspect with this, that people will often jump onto Destiny to chat with their friends as they're just laying into stuff and going through levels and getting loot. It isn't just, you know, a lot's been made about the grind, but it doesn't seem that way if kind of you've got good friends to talk to and you're having a bit of a laugh. Or, you know, I'd do a few bounties if I'd got an hour before I had to set out for work, and it didn't seem like, oh, I'm grinding to do up this weapon. It's like, well, I've got a couple of these bounties, I can kind of take certain ratings up and I might get something cool. But I'd listen to podcasts like while I was doing that, and, you know, I was entertained on the one hand with the stuff that I was listening to, but on the other hand, for me, even aside from the fact that it's a first person shooter, for me Destiny feels like almost like an old arcade machine, like almost like a Gradius and like a sideways scroller like that, or a run and gun, in the fact that, you know, I run along, the enemies come out, I shoot the enemies, I'm enjoying it like an old school sideways scrolling arcade machine, more than something that's more fixed and rigid and story based like a Halo, I guess. But yeah, I'm smitten with Destas.
Team Kane and Rince, do you Destiny much? Are you Destiny people? Clearly not. No.
I actually wrote an article on Kane and Rince, which, as you guys pointed out, yes, very popular when people talk about Destiny, because I think a lot of people have a lot of strong feelings. And I talked about how my opinion of the game changed as I was playing it, and then changed further after I'd stopped, once I'd played through kind of the story content and got to level 20 and finished the single player part of the game. And at the end of that article I said I'm going to go back and try it again, because too many people like yourselves, again, too many people that I know are saying that, you know, the best stuff is yet to be seen. And I went back on and dived into a daily one of the daily missions. They put up one of the story missions kind of slightly remixed so that you can do it as a daily mission that gets you extra XP, etc. And I dived into that and had the first waypoint bug out on me, so I had to restart it, and then got to the end of it, and it was a cavern with waves of enemies that ended up with 2 giant things with rocket launchers on. Died a couple of times, which didn't bother me in and of itself, but as soon as I start questioning why I'm playing Destiny, that's it for me. That's when the disc comes out, and I haven't gone back to it, and unfortunately I don't think I will. I have too many self-loathing issues when I start playing Destiny. So,
are you on what platform do you play on? PS4?
I was on PS4. Yeah.
Oh, well, join us one night and we can show you the world. Right, okay. Destas. Well, again, we've got an entire other podcast for that, so that's probably enough Destas for now. I think Sony then moved on to show us a little bit more of Assassin's Creed. We got to see the lady assassin, I believe, whose name escapes me. Eleanor Fry or something?
Yeah, I remember Jacob. I think it might be Eleanor, maybe.
Seems to play a bit differently as well. She seems to be more stealthy, while Jacob appears to be man puncher. Seemed interesting. I think it's a good, slightly reactionary answer to the issues Ubisoft had last year.
It's Evie Fry.
Evie Fry, there we go. Slightly, possibly knee-jerk reaction to what happened last year, but I'm all for mixing the game up a bit, and it's a nice little wrinkle of colour. What do you guys think?
If it's a knee-jerk reaction, and only they will know that, then if it gets us to the point where, at least for part of the game, there is a female playable protagonist, absolutely fine by me. If that's the kind of qualified risk, quote unquote, that needs to be taken to kind of move things, again, quote unquote, forward in that respect. Certainly from my point of view, I think it's a big step forward, and I think it's a nice way to do it. She plays different. It looks like much like Dishonored 2 we talked about in the Bethesda show, where there's two different characters, and whether it's because of their gender or just because it's nice to have two different playstyles, either way, perfectly fine.
Do you think you'd be able to sort of take one or the other of the twins and sort of play the whole game with them, or maybe certain missions will be Jacob, certain missions will be Evie?
I want to say that after they announced that was going to happen, that it was said that it was going to be about a third of the game, and it might be optional stuff, but
okay,
that's from memory stuff, because I think it had come out beforehand that there was going to be a female playable character, and I want to say that was kind of the number being bandied about, but apologies if I'm wrong on that. That might just be my fuzzy memory filling in gaps.
What do you make of it, Josh?
I'm honestly, I'd just be repeating what James just said. So,
sorry,
yeah.
Right.
Sorry,
Josh, you're going first.
I mean, I'm mainly being quiet because I'm just not that passionate about Assassin's Creed, and I don't want to bring everyone down.
No, not at all. I'd like to think though that with the long development cycles of these games, that maybe this was on the design document before all of that other stuff cracked off. I'd hope so. I give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Further needing the benefit of the doubt then. World of Final Fantasy. A game I didn't quite know what to make of. Tiny people jump on other people.
And then meet bigger people, but look like thumbs.
Yeah. I am slightly baffled by this. It looks cute.
Sympathy.
Thumbnail fantasy.
Thumbnail fantasy.
I'm a little baffled by this one. Like, they seem to. It looked a bit like Kingdom Hearts when it first came out. It had that very distinct very childlike, sort of cartoony style to the characters, and then there's this whole kind of chibification type thing, and I'm not a chibification fan. Like, I don't get it.
It was like it was taking the mick out of the fun. Like, one of the biggest problems with the original Final Fantasy VII was that the art direction's kind of inconsistent, in that when you're exploring, it's got like this chibi art style, and then when you're in battle, it has this more detailed kind of traditional anime look. And it was almost like this game was like, well, we're just going to keep swapping the art style as if to take the mick out of that game. I kind of with you, Patrick. I'm baffled by it. I don't know what to make of it. It seems like you saw Cloud Strife kind of turn up in it, and I believe that's a character from the first Final Fantasy. I don't know, but like it seems very fan servicey type experience. I don't know. It could be good. The thing is, I say all this, but often the best games that Square Enix have released in the past few years are these weird offshoots from their main series, like Bravely Default and
I'd love it if it was as knowing as kind of you've just sort of intimated. That would be amazing.
That would be great. So like they actually acknowledge it in the game. Why don't we just pick one art style and go with it? I don't know. Like
I love that. That for me, if they'd have maybe intimated a little bit of that in the trailer, I think I'd have been a bit more like, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, dig it. Yeah. Have a dig at your most popular game. That would be good. But I don't know. I'm waiting. I'm in a wait and see mode with this game because it could be good. Like. Square Enix's little games like this, they are often really interesting. Like World Ends With You and Bravely Default are arguably like the most interesting games that Square Enix have released. I mean, apart from Nier, before James kills me, in recent years. But we'll see.
I don't know. When I first saw it, I didn't know quite what to make of it, but from this conversation here, it'd be interesting if Square were rolling the dice a little bit with it and taking the mick out themselves, and at the same time kind of celebrating everything that they've done.
In the same manner they did with sort of Theatrhythm. It's that sort of mix of all their stuff and look at the nice things we've made. Like I don't know, if it's got heart, then sold.
I think if it's got a good story as well as that sort of little nod and a wink, because it can, if it goes along, you've got the different looks of characters, and it's quite charming. You can have a laugh with it. If they can then sneak in a story that still has a degree of heart, that still wells your eyes up a little bit and stuff, that's a flat out winner if they can pull that off. So I don't know if we've just over-egged the pudding or not, but I want that pudding. That one there, please.
This was the point in the show where we all have to take a shot because it's coming out on the PlayStation Vita. I think it's the only Vita title that I saw on the entire Sony show. Only mentioned anyway. The only one they actually sort of said, "Hey, it's coming out on the Vita." They said Vita out loud, so we all have to take a shot.
They don't seem to be. They don't
not
seem to want
asked.
to talk about that at all, do they?
No.
Although there's a lot of the like the sort of satellite sites and the really passionate Vita fan base who've clubbed together trailers of games that are still coming out and have started to talk about them. But it's a shame that it's the fan base that has to dig out that sort of stuff and sing it from the rooftops, whilst Sony are almost fingers in their ears.
Well, that's quite a good segue, sort of.
Is it?
Yeah, because it would appear Sony have taken their fingers out of their ears. And again, masterful teasing by Adam Boyes, riding the crowd up for they loaded the shotgun of hype and fired it at our faces. Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
What the hell? And I think I'd like to think that everyone had that degree of watching it going, okay, this is some sort of Advent Children thing. Wait, what? And then the music kicks in and you're like, what? What's happening?
Yeah.
No. And I think this was the real kind of, or the second magic sparkle of, oh god, what's happening? Dreams were becoming real. And yeah, Final Fantasy VII Remake. The thing we never thought was possible. Go, Josh, go.
Yeah, I just I'm always really, really fascinated by the demand for the remake, because like no other game from this kind of generation gets this I feel like the desperation for the Final Fantasy VII remake is really unique amongst like highly regarded games, and I have a few theories as to why fans are really desperate for this remake. I would count myself among fans of this game. I think this is a really important game for me, especially in terms of making me realise what games are capable of. But like I think Final Fantasy VII is a very zeitgeist game. It was very much a game of its age, and I think it's very, very hard for anyone who didn't didn't play it back in the day to experience it now. I think I love Final Fantasy VII more than Chrono Trigger, but if I'm recommending somebody a classic RPG now, the classic JRPG, I would recommend Chrono Trigger over Final Fantasy VII, just because I think Chrono Trigger has aged kind of like it's timeless, that game. Whereas with like Final Fantasy VII, you have to make a load of caveats, like, well, they keep swapping the art direction every like 5 seconds. Like, it goes from this chibi art style to this like this more detailed art style, and there's loads of mini games that are completely pointless. Like, there's an entire like section of the game that's like a tower defense mini game. Yeah, just everyone forgets that's in the game. And there's like snowboarding right after you've like witnessed one of the most dramatic moments in gaming history, and like it's a game that I think kind of needs this update, and I think whether subconsciously or not, the reason why the community wants this remake is because, frankly, getting people to play the original Final Fantasy VII without that nostalgia and without that, you know, the rose-tinted glasses is a big ask. So I'm kind of happy to see this come about just from like you know, getting new people to experience that game perspective. And like the hope is that it will end up being similar to the Resident Evil remake that came out to the on the GameCube, where it kind of absolutely focuses in on what made the original great, and actually even expanding on them, on the positive elements, and making like another truly great game. But, like, I don't know, like, I worry, like, as excited as I am, and I am excited, like, Square Enix are not the company they were when they made Final Fantasy VII. The people who made that game do not work for that company anymore.
I'd probably say, though, that Square Enix aren't the same company that they were maybe a couple of years ago when, I mean,
true enough.
The heads recently sort of left as well, so...
I'm not necessarily saying that as a negative, because Square Enix have definitely like made games that I've loved since 7, obviously. But I just a part of me wants to be cautious. Like, part of me wants to be like, what if this remake comes out, and now that I'm no longer wearing rose-tinted glasses, will all the flaws that are present in the original game kind of glare out at me and stuff like that? So I don't know. Like, I'm sorry to be like a negative Nancy on this one, but like, I'm really conflicted about this, because part of me is screaming for joy, and the other half is going like, well, you'll suddenly realise that you were like, you know, 14 when you played that game, and
will they
maybe
cut out the
your
cross-dressing part, you know?
and stuff like that.
To some people, that was their Star Wars back then. I remember the amount it was advertised on the back of comic books for ages and ages before it came out, and the sheer amount of hype of picking up official PlayStation magazine for the demo of the startup sequence. Have you seen the Your Old Dar 7 Reasons Why Final Fantasy VII Remake will be shit? I thought it was really poignant, as well as being like really funny, because you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you change it out of all proportion, there's a certain amount of people that were saying like you've drifted from the heritage, and if you keep it the same, have you actually played it within the last number of years?
I mean, like, for me, the two things that they cannot change. Number one is the soundtrack.
You're going to say the snowboarding.
The snowboarding, yeah, they keep that in. No, the sound. I'm expecting they'll do a reorchestrated version of it, but like, don't change the notes on the paper, is what I mean. Really, just that like, Final Fantasy VII soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks ever for me. And the other thing is the materia system. Don't mess with the materia system. That I still think that's probably the most elegant approach to customizing abilities and upgrading characters' abilities I've seen in that series. I think the series has done other things better since, like combat and what have you. But like that, like really elegant approach to leveling, keep that exactly the same because you've never topped it.
Well, on the soundtrack front, I wouldn't imagine they'd need to do a great amount because there's been orchestral versions of that soundtrack that have been out. So
yeah.
There's hundreds of versions. I think on our computer, I think we have something like 8 different versions of the soundtrack. So I think they've probably got it. They've probably got the material there.
Are you a fan, James?
I've never played a Final Fantasy game.
It was interesting. It was interesting beforehand as well that there was a little bit of talk that kicked in on Twitter with. They did announce that PC port last year, where everybody kind of went, "Oh my god, they're going to!" It's a PC port, and that never arrived.
Square Enix Master Trolls.
Yeah, I think actually, I wasn't that surprised as it sounds like you guys were when it turned out this was a remake. I never played the game, so none of what happened in the CG trailer kind of gave the game away in terms of what it was, but when they said it's a remake, I was like, well, I'd seen some of that chatter and I'd remembered, they announced the PC port. A PC port doesn't take a year, so what were they doing with that? And the answer was, well, there was more to come, or they looked at what happened last year and decided to do something about it, perhaps. And we now do have a date for that, and there's going to be an iOS port before then.
Which is baffling.
I say PC port, it's the PS4 port of the PC version, isn't it? But yeah, it didn't therefore surprise me because I'd heard a few people and I'd kind of nodded along with them saying, well, maybe that means they haven't released it because there's something else going on now, even though there wasn't last year. But yeah, I never played a Final Fantasy. I do like dropping that into conversation and getting reactions like yours, Paddy. That's always welcome.
I just can't believe it. I did. Wow.
Well, they all came out at a time when I was playing PC games and not console. I had this kind of big hole late 90s through to 2007 where I just didn't play console games pretty much, aside from I had a PSP and but yeah, Josh I think hit the nail on the head where it's kind of like I know of Final Fantasy VII. I know how much it's lauded by an awful lot of people, and I have no aversion to going back and playing old games that maybe don't play quite as well as they did when they came out or have aged not all that well. I have no problem going back and appreciating them for what they are, but with Final Fantasy VII or any of the Final Fantasy games there is that kind of barrier of, well, these are so beloved, am I really going to get anything close to the experience that those people who love these games had when they came out? And so something like this remake offers obviously you guys a chance to go back and revisit something, a different take on something that you love, and it gives me a chance to say, well, let's just see if I can in the remake see maybe what you guys love about it. So intrigued, I would say. And Final Fantasy trailers always look absolutely spiffy. So,
right then. Okay, so we're all sort of sitting there shell-shocked at 3 a.m. in the morning, dribbling slightly out the corners of our mouths. Most of us were anyway. And we moved on to Devolver, which was a nice change of pace, with a few indie Devolver. Very, very Devolver-looking titles as well, which is not. I don't mean that. I mean that in the best way possible. Yeah. They had Iter, I believe it's called, which appears to be sort of pixely, side-scrolling shield and combat and swords and look neat. Title called Mother Russia Bleeds, which looked a bit like your Streets of Rage, your Final Fight, but with lots of blood. Okay, yeah, sure. And something called Crossing Souls, which I think was the one that looked a little bit like a 90s cartoon.
There was another one as well called Ronin.
Ronin, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Ronin's
what do you
one
think about
that's a
these?
bit of It was very rapid fire. Ronin, I was just going to say that's one that is a self-proclaimed kind of homage to Gunpoint, which seems like an odd thing to say, given that Gunpoint's not exactly necessarily all that well known. Although I know myself and Josh have a lot of love for it, but yeah, rapid fire Devolver titles. I think that makes sense, given that Devolver have had a lot of success on PS4 and Vita recently. So.
Yeah. Anyone got any more for the Devolver titles? Or cause they were quite short and snappy, weren't there? There wasn't a lot to go on.
Sorry, CJ.
No. I was just going to say there wasn't really a huge amount to go on, and in the same way as I had to kind of super pause the video on the Xbox conference to kind of get all of the individual indie stuff. Kind of the same occurred here, really.
Okay. Well. Then
what were you saying?
Josh, go.
No, I was literally going to say the exact same thing.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on to, again, another bizarre, weird dream sequence where they start talking about Kickstarter and we think, oh, okay, they're going to show, like many people, I thought they were going to show off maybe Bloodstained or Shovel Knight or something, something that had been kickstarted and have made their way on. And then the Shenmue music kicks in. What the hell? I think at that point many people, myself included, weren't sure if this was were we all dreaming? Was this real? Was it possible? Shenmue, CJ, what do you think?
I have no resonance with the original game because I've not played it. It was a crowbar across the face, and sort of great to see people's reactions and stuff. But I'm a little bit skeptical as to whether this was a Joy plugin for the Sony conference. And I know it's coming to the PS4, but the amount of money they were looking to raise initially is quite small, and I'm wondering if Sony will come in later and go, well, it's raised this amount of money, we're going to invest X amount to kick it on from there. But I got the dichotomy in this situation where I could see how much that game has meant to people, but I question why a Kickstarter is being revealed in a Sony conference other than a Joy plugin.
It was a strange one, wasn't it? It was very strange, the Kickstarter thing. But by all accounts, it appears to have worked. So, like in what, a day, maybe?
Yeah, it's hit its goal like within, is it a day or so? Was it
10 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madness. So yeah, Kane and Rince team. Shenmue. Any resonance with it? Any?
You see, I've not played any of the Shenmue games, so I it's one of those announcements where I realise how important it is for everyone else, despite not having that same emotional reaction. I think on Twitter I wrote, "Has anyone checked to see BitSocket's still alive?"
I saw that. That was
like they weren't awake because they weren't watching.
That
at the
was really
time,
funny because somebody was like, somebody should go around and wake them up.
No, I mean, like it's Shenmue. Like it looks like Shenmue, so I hope that's good for the people who like Shenmue. Sorry, that's not a very interesting thing to say, but having not played the first two games, I can't really add much.
Well, I think the as far as like the fan reaction goes, I think nothing summed it up better than there's a short clip from the game trailers live commentary was going on.
Yeah.
I've heard about this. I've not seen it.
A man literally jumps out of his chair and pretty much starts crying and saying, "Oh my god, no!" Smiling, collapsing on the floor. The other host is trying to pick him up. He's clearly a broken man. And then it's like, we're doing the Kickstarter now, and he just starts screaming, "Take it all, have all of my money."
Didn't Jim Trinker drop out of character as well from doing your old DAR when it started?
You can see him just go a little bit. He could just see him go, "Oh no, oh." But yeah, I think it's definitely one that, I mean, again, I didn't exactly play it myself either, but I completely understand the resonance it has for everyone, and just see it again. Twitter was delightful. Like, again, just a wall of people just disbelieving that that this was real. That no, this can't be happening. What's going on? And I think Sayam, a friend of ours, Sayam Ahmed, on Twitter, before the Sony show started, was saying we could be in a show where they show Last Guardian, a Final Fantasy VII remake, and Shenmue.
Bingo, sir.
It was
you win the internet.
Oh, he didn't. Past Sayam didn't even know. He didn't even know. But yeah, no, big announcement for that one, and I think this is the point where we started to lose momentum a little bit. I think.
Yeah, they certainly followed it in the strangest of ways.
Well, it was Arkham Knight next. It was Batman.
As I understand it, it's the opening sequence from Arkham Knight.
Okay.
Which is
right.
because a few folks were saying like, well, actually it was Simon Miller in Video Game and was like, well, I like to start a game and have that unfold around me as part of the sequence of, you know, putting the disc in, sitting down, grabbing my pad, ready to lose myself in the world, and to have the opening sequence of a game that's coming out this quickly. I question why that's there in say instead of the Tomorrow Children or something like that, which you know is almost ready to go and was nowhere near the conference this time.
Well, the reason Batman Arkham Knight was there is because it's some free, well, not free obviously, but it's some very timely press for Warner Brothers and for this game.
Oh right, gotcha.
I mean, what better way when you've got a massive number of people who love video games? What better way to just remind them that Batman's coming out next week than to stick it in the middle of the Sony conference?
God, it's a wee bit cynical, isn't it?
Well, but
do you know what I mean? It's a wee bit sort of I don't know, just a nudge and a wink for your mates. It's
do you like video games? You can buy this one soon. Oh yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's only the same as advertising your film in the middle of the Super Bowl. If your film's coming out, you know you've got a lot of people who are into their entertainment and watching 4 Super Bowl ads. Why wouldn't you advertise your video game or your film in there? So it's just a perfect spot to be able to show something.
I don't know, but it's not as if you're buying advertisement in sort of a commercial within something else. It's I don't know. It's a show in of itself, and I don't know. It just smacks of blech to me. If that was the case,
they are buying advertising space in essence because it's part of the deal that Sony have got to have some exclusive content.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
So why wouldn't Sony have presumably paid for this exclusive content? Why wouldn't they then put it in their show and say, "Come play it on PS4"? You know?
Yeah.
As for it being the opening, that was what I thought at first as well. But then I remembered that the exclusive content that PS4 have is Scarecrow related. So that kind of made me wonder. You know, it may be that the opening of the game happens to be something of a nightmare scenario that would be something akin to Scarecrow, but it gave me pause for thought and made me think maybe this is the opening part of that Scarecrow content that Sony have got or something, but I'm not sure if that's been confirmed that it is actually the opening cutscene or anything.
Is it a game that you're picking up?
I'm of two minds, just because.
I think we discussed that there.
Just
on this
the
one,
whole pre-order thing that Warner Brothers are doing with different pieces of the game, albeit not necessarily integral pieces all over the place. The PC version is about half the price of the console versions, so that would be an easy thing for me to say, well, I don't need to worry about how much I'm going to enjoy this game, I can just pick it up cheaply. But then you in theory miss out on some of the platform specific content, so it just, the whole thing kind of makes me think, well, if you're going to make it this difficult for me to decide, and it's not difficult in quotation marks there, but if you're going to even make me hesitate as to which version I should buy, well then the easier option for me is just not to buy any of them, and that sounds stupid, but
it's the worst offender since Watch Dogs for that, isn't it?
Yeah,
they've really broken this thing down, and like you say, a lot of it is not, I would consider, integral. Like, Batmobile skins aren't going to end the world, but as someone who, as a sort of, a lot of gamers are, we're quite completionist, we like to have all of it, and to know that you're not going to have all of it or have to pay out the arse for all of it, no. sorry.
And they have said that all of the, aside from this Scarecrow Nightmare Pack, all of the rest of the stuff, the skins and the challenge maps and Harley Quinn, etc., is going to come eventually to anyone who's got the season pass, and it will be available therefore to have as DLC after a time. But it makes buying the game such a mess, and not since Warner Brothers have been guilty of it in the past, but Watch Dogs was the one where you needed a spreadsheet to work out where you were buying your game from.
God,
and you missed out on one thing or another, and we've seen it with Dark Souls 2 had that, where depending upon which retailer you bought it from, you got a different piece of sort of memorabilia or
Hey CJ, which retailer did you buy it from?
I bought it from all of them.
Yeah. No, I was the same. I ended up with pre-orders all over the place to try and decide which one I was going to end up with, or which multiples I was going to end up with.
I bought the poster from off of Martin Charlton, but I was going for the comic book and for the statue thing, and I then traded in some games at Game to get the T-shirt version, and I've now got 3 versions of that T-shirt through various odd bits.
But then there were 4 metal postcard things from Amazon as well.
Oh my god, I've got 3 of those now. 3, and yet you can't get them individually on eBay. People are charging like 70 quid for a set. Although I have got this is a slight aside, but I bought the other day a metal plate with the cover from the American Dark Souls 2 and Go Beyond Death underneath it. So that's arriving at my house tomorrow. That's got nothing to do with E3.
I was going to say, Josh, how do you feel about Batman Arkham Knight?
It looks like it could be good. And I don't know, though, because Arkham City was less impressive than Arkham Asylum, so I'll wait until it's like 20 quid.
Good call.
I think that's exactly where I am right now with it. Like, there's too much going on, and Origins left me very, very sour on Batman. So I think it's going to take. It did. It left me so sour. I think the ones I played the other 2, and I think I've played enough Batman. It's the same problem I've got with Assassin's Creed. Like, I've done this. I don't need to do this again. Not so soon. I can wait for Arkham Knight.
Yeah.
Right then.
Okay. Speaking of other game that we all can't wait to get. And serious contender for the official Twin Humanities 20 Minutes of Wanking On award, Coblops 3.
But they were always going to do 20 minutes of wanking on about this,
this
because
was...
it's a big deal for PlayStation.
But it was a torturous 20 minutes of wanking on. It really was.
It's not our bag, but I'm sure for people that love that sort of thing, that I don't know. This is.
It's a shareholder moment.
It's another one. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Like I just phase out. It's like there's a bit where you're going to be a multiplayer and you're going to shoot the other man, and then there's a bit where you're going to be in a ship and it's probably going to crash and you're going to shoot the stuff. It does absolutely just nothing for me. Just nothing. It's at 0 point. They could have just said, right, it's coming out, and okay, fine, move on. We all knew it was going to show up at one of the shows, and the fact it didn't show up at Microsoft means, right, that's 10 minutes of the Sony show taken over. Show me 10 minutes of No Man's Sky. Don't give me 3 minutes. Swap them round. Give me 3 minutes of Coblops and 10 minutes of No Man's Sky. That's what annoyed me.
It'll mean that PlayStation have got the DLC first, or the maps first, or the stuff that Microsoft normally get.
And
but on a personal level, I understand it's the shareholders and it's not just me, but I don't care. Like, I'm very selfish. Like, I don't care.
And in this case, much like something like a Just Dance, it isn't actually just the shareholders either. There are an awful lot of people who are looking forward to the next Call of Duty, and for them, the fact that it's now got the exclusive, or the window of exclusivity for the DLC is probably actually a very big deal. I think it's interesting that both Microsoft and Sony can kind of spin this as a positive thing for them. Sony, it's a coup because they got it away from Microsoft, and for Microsoft, actually, probably they could spin it as well. Sales have declined over the past few years, and it's not really worth the money, so we were happy to kind of let that one go.
Well, Microsoft can probably spin it into all of the DLC and maps for Halo 5 are free.
Yeah, sure, but it's just Call of Duty's in an interesting place where it is still really popular. It makes sense to have that little bit of exclusivity on the platform that has the most consoles and they're sold, and therefore the most players, which is PlayStation 4 at this point. So yeah, I think it is an interesting move, and it is a bit of a coup for Sony. But I don't think Microsoft are going to probably be too upset about it necessarily. But
Yeah, I'd just rather they'd spent all that time on it. Perhaps at their own show that completely exists that we talked about on our prediction show that you quite rightly pointed out doesn't actually exist, and we both felt
it's the weirdest thing because you'd think they would, but yeah,
I know it's like, well, why not? Like, surely they're doing a show this year. There's 8 of them. One of them must be Activision, surely. But yeah, I don't know. It just felt like it was just too long. Like it was too long for me, and it kind of ground the pace to a complete halt. I found, like, I was dozing off a little bit at this point at like 3 a.m, and like we had all the excitement, and then my energy was gone, and like I just can't stay awake.
And to be fair, we rolled into this after they briefly talked about Morpheus and then talked about PlayStation View, which I still don't kind of get what it is, but it's about TV and entertainment and
television.
Okay, right.
And all of the funny people on the internet are saying, oh, well, they talk about TV now, don't they? Oh, remember that?
They'll wheel out Brian Michael Bendis next, and we're gone for the next half an hour.
Jesus.
Our Series 2.
But some of the Morpheus stuff they showed looked kind of cool. They showed this in the same little chunk, didn't they? Again, for full disclosure, my mate who works at Gorilla is working at Gorilla Cambridge and has been working on it for a little bit. And I think Project Riggs actually looks kind of cool. Like the little 3-on-3 sort of like slightly sort of fast-paced tribesy sort of look to it. It looks kind of neat, I guess. I didn't really remember much of the other Morpheus stuff. What else was there? Anyone remember?
Nope.
This
Riggs is the only one I remember.
Is a bit of a blur to me, to be honest. I've got words written on a pad, but I don't have any memories of what happened.
It was. I know you went into Disney Infinity 3.0 after that,
yes.
And the
most excited man in the world.
The only thing that vaguely interests me about that is that Ninja Theory's working on a bit of it, but other than that, I don't know. Wasn't crazy about the designs either.
I'm the other way. I thought the design looks kind of cool, but I don't want to have to buy the toys. Like, I just the game itself looks like a game that I'd play, but I just can't invest that much money in that sort of thing. I just can't. Any of those like toy go on a things. I cannot justify spending 15 quid for a toy that unlocks a thing in a game. I can't see myself ever being in that position. Because the game looks fun. I'd play that. It looks like a right laugh.
I don't know if I ever invested in something like that, having listened to numerous times the Cayman Rinse on Skylanders. I think I might go for Swap Force, because it's now a pittance sort of cheapness wise, and it sounds like a good laugh. So yeah, I think that's what I'd jump into. But I presume most people are going to be getting their Star Wars on with Battlefront, which followed it.
Good segue.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, Battlefront again. This is probably the second time we saw it this week, didn't we? It was on the EA show, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
It was,
Yeah. Again, I think it showed. What did they show on this show? Was this the co-op mode, like the?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
Or otherwise known as the mode that I will play with my wife, which is fine. And it looked neat. You know, it was two people running around, sort of watching each other's backs, shooting the stormtrooper mans. Once again, Mans getting a bad rep. Poor Mans. They never do well at these shows. Yeah, Battlefront looks really neat. I mean, we had a big discussion about it yesterday. On the previous show. Let's not break the illusion. Josh, what do you think about Star Wars Battlefront?
I think it looks good. The problem is I've never really gotten on with a Battlefield game, and this does look very similar to a Battlefield game, if maybe a little bit more accessible, because like you can go into third person and stuff like that. But I think that like the thing that sells me on this game more than anything is the sound effects. Like me and Leon were chatting on the Half-Life 2 show actually quite a while ago, the Half-Life 2 Kane and Rinse. James, can you remember what episode number that was?
Oh, off the top of my head, I can't, I'm afraid.
Oh, damn. I failed to plug Kane and Rinse show there. But anyway, check it out, you'll find it. Yeah, so we were talking about sound design, and we were saying like Half-Life 2 sound designer and then Star Wars are kind of like the two sound designers that kind of immediately spring to mind, in that like you hear these sound effects in your dreams and stuff like that. It's that good. So to hear all of that kind of like, you know, uniquely Star Wars sound design in this kind of game was really cool.
Yeah.
And it looked like, you know, I think Star Wars game draw on Hoth a lot for a reason. It's probably the best action set piece the movies have ever had, and it looks good. I think it looks good.
I completely agree with the sound thing, because that's what got me excited about the trailers for the new film as well. Because again, it's like, the Star Wars Episode 7 trailers come out, and it's like, not going to get excited this time. Yeah, I'm not going to get excited, and then the comes in. You're like, oh, they've got me again. Shit. Just book the cinema tickets now. Just get it done. But yeah, no, the sound design, it sounds like Star Wars, and that's a big part of it. And I think it looks like Star Wars as well. Like the stormtroopers look a bit grubby, a bit dirty, and it looks kind of like 70s future still.
Yeah.
Like the walkers still have that weird sort of bow-legged gait that they've captured really well, and it looks like a proper Star Wars thing. And yeah, I'm in. CJ, Star Wars?
I mentioned yesterday, Empire Strikes Back is one of my favourite films ever, but this to me looks soulless. It just didn't give me a flicker of like wow at all. And I was pondering on this a bit more today, and I think that if I have a Star Wars game, for me it's Destiny. That to me punches those Star Wars buttons, because it's like running in the Death Star, or like going down certain planets. That's where I kind of get that kind of that knot in the stomach and that flavour. But no, I can't say this did a lot for me at all. Sadly.
Shame.
I've put my mental faculties to good use, and I've dragged up from my memory, not my tablet sitting next to me, that it was Kane and Rince episode 56.
Of course it was.
There we go.
Excellent memory. Well done.
What a memory.
Yeah.
Thanks for the memory.
Delved back 120 odd issues and remembered that was that one.
Right, so last up then in the Sony show, I think something we were all expecting to see, Uncharted 4, with some gameplay, with some sort of some schwiz, a little bit of the cutscene at the start, and I think the very first E3 technical breakdown of the whole show. Yeah. Which was as they get to the start of the level, and Drake stood there in the surrounding group of people, and he stands there and he watches them kind of interact with each other. And don't get me wrong, the interactions of the crowd were very interesting. Like, oh look, they're talking, and that one fell over, and that one's giving that one a biscuit, and then he stood there some more, and I thought, oh, this is. And then I think everyone gets to that point where I think you hear someone in the crowd go, "Way!" I'm sure I heard a very faint.
At this point,
there's always like a "Way!" in the background.
Yeah, there was a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, and then they had to restart the whole demo. Now, like, I think that's quite good, because it shows you that they were probably actually properly playing it. Like, it sometimes you see these demos and you think, you're not. Are they really playing that right now? Like, I'm not sure I believe them all the time. The fact it didn't work and he was just stood there and the controller wasn't working, quite heartening to see it was actually playable.
I hate to ruin the magic for you, Paddy, but I've heard some pretty compelling evidence that sometimes they deliberately fake this kind of stuff just to convince people that that this is and this is coming from trusted sources
behind
as well.
the curtain.
This is not
Joshua Garrity.
So
Illuminati.
I wouldn't read too much. I wouldn't read too much into that, unfortunately. I mean, it's definitely. If anything, it proves that it's definitely like in engine. I think that's a fair assumption, but I wouldn't I wouldn't see that as confirmation that this was like unscripted. Like, unchoreographed gameplay.
Oh, yeah.
I think it really.
The thing that struck me was if it was live, the guy was in complete darkness because all the light was on the screen. I couldn't see him down there.
Yeah.
What difference does it make whether it was live or it was just a video? The only thing that can happen is it's going to go wrong. Which if it did actually legitimately go wrong, what difference does it make if he played it an hour beforehand and they recorded the footage and just played it?
Because I presume they cut to a video feed, and even if there are people that are legitimately playing it, that if things fuck up, they've got a feed that they can then sort of yank to if that's the case, and I presume that's what happened.
Yeah, and it's not like it's an Assassin's Creed one where you can just claim it's an Animus glitch and get on with it.
So what do you think to the game once it unveiled itself, shall we say?
Okay, I'll go. I like my Uncharted. I'm a big fan of it. I got in with the first one. It's hit that sort of Indiana Jonesy sort of note with me. Like it's that big sort of silly, bombastic, larger than life, two-fist swinging kind of big explory fun game. And they've always been that, even through the hiccups that 3 had. I've always enjoyed. They've always been that sort of favourite action film. Like I do pop them out every now and again and have a good run through. And incidentally, that remastered collection HD upscale thing, yep, I'll buy that. That's not a problem. Yep, 40 quid right now. Take it. That's fine. That's worth it. And yeah, this looks like just more of the same. I've always enjoyed the way it controls. I enjoy the gunfights. I enjoy the cover combat it's got. It's kind of got a sort of sense of humour to it almost that sort of brings it up from man shooter. And the bit in the Jeep looked really, really fun as well. And it seems like that's not the only one of those there's going to be. There's going to be a few sort of bits like that where everything starts exploding. And I'm sold. But I'm a very easy sell for Uncharted, so I'm probably not the best or most critical source.
I'm remembering all the Uncharted divisions we had on Twitter a couple of days ago.
Yep.
Where with our previous favourites and things that we bounced off.
I mean, for me, I'm speaking as somebody who really, really loves Uncharted 2, particularly.
Mm-hmm.
I think Uncharted 1 has excellent writing and character interaction, but I don't think it's a particularly strong game. And I like a lot of what Uncharted 3 did, but there were some weird moments where like there was a set piece because there needed to be a set piece here rather than it actually feeding into the narrative. The whole ship section of Uncharted 3, while it was spectacular to look at and play, it made no sense. It was literally just like, let's go over here for a bit and then put Drake right back where he was in the story. So I really hope Uncharted 4 can be as good as Uncharted 2 again. And I mean, I love The Last of Us. I think The Last of Us is one of my favourite games of all time. So yeah, I'm kind of interested in Uncharted 4, but I'm actually worried that it's more of the same, because I don't know. I would like them to do something a bit different this time out.
James, Uncharted? I know you're not the biggest fan.
At this point, it would take a heck of a lot to get me to play a Naughty Dog game that is either Uncharted or Last of Us, in all honesty. And I know that's going to sound bananas to some people. I just think I've got to the point where the only way I can explain it without it seeming like I'm ragging on a game that I or a series of games, and Last of Us obviously not in the same series, but of a similar type of game. Without it seeming like I'm just ragging on it, when I acknowledge that they are very good games, very well made, and they do certain things better than just about any other video game ever has. I just think I'm incompatible with them. I end up having the most frustrating time playing those games to the point where I took the disc out from Uncharted 2 and got rid of that thing as quick as I could. Finished it, got rid of it. I just didn't want anything more to do with it. I persisted, played Uncharted 3, thought maybe, but no. And Last of Us, I had a lot of time for, but ultimately, again, just there's some telltale things about Naughty Dog's third-person action games that just still, I had problems with player signposting and the way that that certain sections are designed and the way that the combat feels just aren't my bag. So, but that said, the Jeep section gave me a bit of hope. Obviously, without playing it, for ourselves, we don't know, but it seemed to be that there were multiple paths to take. It didn't seem like often the kind of driving and chase sections are in some of the previous games where they do feel quite linear. This seemed like there were turns to take and options, and who knows, maybe if you'd gone a different way it would have been instant kill, but it looked like it was more of an open section to play in. It looked like that there was more of just player choice and freedom to kind of tell your own little chase story, which certainly intrigued me, and it looked fantastic. There's no two ways about that. Looked just potentially really good fun if they pull it off right. But it'll take a heck of a lot to get me to play that game.
I think the intriguing thing for me was with this, because I thought it looked all right. It's particularly pretty, and as you were saying, that there seemed to be funneling you towards a point with the Jeep section, but you've got various different back gardens that you could ruin with your American Jeep going through the washing lines of the poor. But I watched a stream where Kinda Funny were talking about that they had a behind closed doors muck about with Uncharted 4, and they said that the point directly after that feed is absolutely incredible. Things go utterly fucking nuts, and they were saying, like, why didn't they show that as well? Because it would have been a jaw-dropping point to not only end the footage of that game, but to end the Sony show. And they were saying, like, it is so good, the next bit after that they can't quite get their heads around it. So that was intriguing. And as with with Uncharted, I really enjoyed the first game. Bounced off the second one, didn't enjoy it, so backed out early, and even bounced off The Last of Us. I'm kind of James 2 Electric Boogaloo on this one.
I found the other one person.
It's you, me, baby.
Honestly, with this game series more than almost any other, I feel like there is something wrong with me. But
but we all have that. We all have the titles we bounce.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we all do, and that makes the world a shiny rainbow place.
Absolutely.
So other than, I thought we were going to do 2 shows on this. We might have to break this into 3, I think. So, but there's something else that you wanted to plug into this.
There's one last thing we need to talk about before we finish up, because I say it's getting a bit late, and I've got to get settled, get the curtain shut soon. A trailer that popped up, not in any of the shows, but a trailer that popped up on its own shortly after the Microsoft show. The final, or the very nearly final trailer for Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain, and now I have a great story about this as well. A few days early on Thursday, I did my back in a bit at work. I was picking up a mattress because I work in a furniture store, and I picked up a mattress, and I just felt that horrible spasm you get in your lower back, where you kind of go, you're like, oh god, and I've been pretty much out of action ever since, because I kind of, my back hurts a bit. I've just been hobbling around. And I was sitting on the sofa watching the Phantom Pain trailer, getting quite excited, like, oh my god. And then a particular thing happens towards the end where we see a certain someone jump into a certain robot. I turned around to my wife Laura on the sofa. I made a excited noise, and then after that made an painful noise. I had completely done my back in a second time. So ironically, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain gave me actual legitimate pain. So thanks, video game, but I don't mind it because I was so excited for it. Metal Gear is my thing. Like, it's my thing. I've got all the stuff, as I've mentioned on many shows. I've got the statue in the reading room. I've got some shit for Metal Gear, and this was, again, another just perfect trailer. Like, they are so good at just knocking these trailers out, and every single trailer has raised my hype. Every single one. And I'm surprised at the quality they've kept up with it. And the soundtracks as well. Really good. I'm waffling. Someone else go.
Well, I like Metal Gear Solid 3 is like all-time favorite game for me. And this is kind of drawing from that kind of like Metal Gear Solid 3 Peace Walker, that story arc, which is more interesting to me than the Solid Snake stuff. Not that I dislike the Solid Snake stuff, it's just that stuff is way harder to follow story-wise than the stuff that happens in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm really excited for it. Like, I think all the odd-numbered Metal Gear games are my favourite. So if the pattern continues, Metal Gear Solid 5 will be one of my favourites.
And there's been a lot of things that have been little gameplay videos that have cropped up in the last sort of couple of days, showing that you can. The dog that goes around, you can be ordered to go and go and sort of sit around the corner and bark to distract enemies, and you can tell him to jump on people. And if you decide that you don't need Dog anymore, you can attach a balloon to him and watch Dog fly away. Like, never change, Metal Gear. Never change on me. And obviously there's the little reveals at the end with the Metal Gear Rex prototype showing up, and the little kid, which is heavily believed to be Liquid, jumping in as well. Oh god, and the classic phrase "les enfants terribles." Just say that and you've got me. Like, you've got me. I am so into the Metal Gear mythos, and I am so stuck on it that, like, this is another game that just seems to be made for me. They're only making it for me. I'm okay with that. CJ, you don't play a lot of Metal Gear, do you?
I have never ever played a Metal Gear Solid game.
I need to fix you.
And I will try. This one I went completely over my head. But I really enjoyed the previous trailer, the Standing on the Edge one. That was really cool, and it was nice to see a bit of. It wasn't Joy Division, it was New Order, wasn't it, in this one? But this kind of wasn't for me. I presume that if you're familiar with the lore and the story of Metal Gear, this is pushing some almighty buttons. But
this is
I don't own those buttons. My shirt is flowing freely, and my chest is kissed by sunlight.
Just a Joshua Garrity recommendation, CJ. I as somebody who has never played a Metal Gear Solid game, I would recommend at least playing Metal Gear Solid 3. Because out of all of them, it has the most self-contained story, so you can play it from beginning to end and get your own story, and not feel like you're missing out on the grander mythos. But also, I think it kind of demonstrates exactly why people love that series in one game. Like, it has all the best elements of the series in one game, and if you like Metal Gear Solid 3, then you can go back to the others, because that will be a good litmus test. If you bounce off 3, then just don't even bother with the rest of the series.
But then you're not trying them in the right order. That makes me sad.
Well, technically you are, because it's the
release that order for life, Doc.
The control scheme's not the easiest, I don't think, in Metal Gear Solid 3, given that at that point the series really did start to look like it should be a third-person, almost shooter-type game. It's not, but the control scheme might be a bit difficult to pick up. But by the time you get through the opening section of the game, there's a very clear opening section of the game that you can delineate, because, well, you'll see when you get there. By the time you get to that point, you'll have picked it up enough, and it'll have its hooks in you by then, I'd wager.
I mean, personally for me, I can't. Like, it's a good way. I mean, I would also recommend trying Metal Gear Solid 1 on the PS1, but that is because, much like Josh, it is my favourite game of ever. And I remember when I bought it, I think I played it something like 13 times in a row over a summer. But you can't go too wrong, I think, with 3 or 1. I think personally, I think obviously the visuals
I think starting with Metal Gear Solid 2 might be a bit off.
Okay, yeah, or 4 as well. Yeah.
But, actually, I did have a bit of tickle into Metal Gear Solid 2, because I rented it from Love Film, and all I remember was trying to make a claw whilst trying to shoot a gun. That's really all that sort of stays in my head on that one.
Well, it's hard to shoot people.
That game's divisive. Yeah.
for reasons, should we say? Blonde-wigged reasons.
Desperately looking forward to this game. The more and more we've heard about it, the more it seems like it might be a big console version of Peace Walker.
It sounds
obviously
huge.
continuing the story and stuff, but yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Absolutely.
There was an interview I read, I think I heard, where a guy, one of the devs, was sort of rounding off his completion on it at about 50 hours, and this was at 53% done.
Yeah.
100 hours in a Metal Gear game.
It's absolutely immense, that game. Yeah,
cool.
I think,
and probably only about 20 of those hours will be cutscenes.
I think Steve Burns on Video Game was saying sort of how good it was as well. So very cool.
This is it. This is the turn. This is the turn. This is when Big Boss finally loses his nut. I can't wait.
I'm slightly disappointed, I've got to say, Paddy, that story wasn't I threw my back out and then I got a robotic spine. That would have been in keeping as well.
A burgundy robotic spine.
There was absolutely nothing disappointing about that trailer. There's just so much analysis to the point of over-analysing probably that can be done on every little bit of that. And I love that about these games, that you can do a lot of. I mean, even just seeing the two blonde-haired children at the end and Les Enfants Terribles come up. That invites a lot of speculation in and of itself. But then you can get really into the nitty-gritty, and every little thing that you see can suddenly be amplified and read into an awful lot, which is fantastic.
Definitely. One more tiny bit I want to mention, just because it was, again, one of these. There's one shot in that trailer where it's Miller in the back, and he's got his coat, but obviously he's lost his arm, and he just sort of holds the empty sleeve, and it just kind of flops out of his hand. And I actually got a lump in my throat watching that. I was like, oh my god, it was just a beautifully shot moment. I don't know why, it got me. Every time I've watched it, it gets me. It's beautiful. Just the empty sleeve. Yeah,
this is going to pull at some heartstrings for people who think fondly of 3 in Peace Walker, I think.
Definitely. My hype level is off the train for Phantom Pain, probably more than anything I can think of at the moment. And it's what, 3 months away now. It's not far.
It's 1st of September, isn't it? So yeah, it's 2 months and a week and a half or so. Yeah.
And I'll continue to make those noises until my back fixes itself. Right, so yeah, we will probably have to draw to a close here because there are 3 more shows to talk about, and we've been going for 3 hours. So yeah, for the benefit of the listeners and for our own sleep, I think we'll have to draw to a close there. Thank you, James Carter and Joshua Garrity, for joining us on this wonderful E3 wrap-up we've been having. Where can we find you for those who didn't listen to the last show?
Do you want to take this, or shall I?
I took it last time round because Darren was a little worse for wear by the end of the podcast.
He did a great job.
So we killed you take it this time round and give a different spin on this site.
Okay, so you can find me and James on CanonRints.com, where you'll find a podcast where we take a game or a series of games and dissect them and analyse them in detail in only the way that Canon Rints can. You'll also find a number of interesting articles and video content on the site, our YouTube channel, and we have a Facebook, we have a Twitter, and what have you. You can find me Combine Hunter on Twitter, and James is, I can't even pronounce it. Just James, say what your name is.
Just find Josh and ask him to point you at my account. That'll be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, do that.
You thought he wanted it for
That's the one.
Brilliant. Thank you again for joining us once again for another
not at all, absolute pleasure.
Another far too long chat. And I hope you can join us again for the next part, because we ain't done, yo.
It's proper good natter. I enjoyed it also. Very, very much indeed.
Yeah.
Thanks Patrick, for steaming past me once more.
I was getting there.
Yeah, no, you weren't.
All right, take us home.
So the next show will be Nintendo, Square, and maybe a little sort of tickle on the PC show. I don't know, but I will
5 minutes on PC.
I will drop the hint that my game of the show is in the next episode.
Mine too.
Dun dun dun.
I know what James's is, but no one knows.
We'll find all that out. We'll find that out next time. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll see you again for another horribly long show. Goodbye.
Cheer, bye.
Bye.
Bye.